Hello and welcome everybody to episode number 4 of the Two Abdullah show. Today, as you can see, we have a very, very special guest with us, the Harris Sultan, aka Pakistani Mulhid, and we have a very interesting topic at our hand. I love your shirt, Science Hafiz. Do check out his merchandise. Also, we're streaming today on 2 channels, the Harris Sultan and Abdullah Sameer. And also the topic we're discussing today is blasphemy and apostasy. Now, you'd think we just stick to the hadith and what happened in Muhammad's time, but we're going to change it around and we're going to talk about a lot of contemporary issues and a lot of problems facing apostates and blasphemers and ex-Muslims like myself and many others. So without further ado, I would hand it over to Abdullah Sameer to say a few words about what he has seen. And then we'll go to Harris, because Harris has also been going through a lot of relevant drama pertaining to this very subject. So this will be a very interesting conversation.
All right. So welcome everyone to another episode. And as we said, we're doing something different today. We're streaming on 2 channels. So I think we're going to have a lot of people connecting. Now, we are talking about something which honestly is so stupid and useless and dumb, but we have to talk about it. The fact that we have to talk about blasphemy in the 21st century, it's like talking about killing witches. Like, why are we talking about this? Why is this still a thing? Why is this still an issue? And some of you would think this is not an issue. You guys are just kind of talking about something that's irrelevant. You'll see just how much of an issue this is, just how relevant this is in the 21st century, how these Islamic ideas have influenced and caused so much suffering. If you want to say Islam is a religion of peace, if you see it that way, maybe you see it that way. But just take a look at how so many people have interpreted this, how much pain and suffering it's caused in the world. So yeah, without any further ado, for me personally, I'm thankful I haven't been attacked or abused or anything like that other than online. So I'm okay. And I'm glad that we are safe within the West and we can talk about these things. But it seems like the brunt of the abuse goes towards Pakistanis and Somalis and some others. So Harris Sultan, you've actually experienced quite a bit of this yourself, and not just online trolls, but like real life people.
Well, I think as you rightly said, that it's the ideology that forces people. So when you actually get to speak with these people who make these threats, you realize that they're just ordinary people. They were just doing it because they thought that's the right thing to do. And where do they get these ideas? They get these ideas, whether you want to blame directly the doctrine of Islam or you want to blame the society they grew up in, whatever you want to blame, but it is hardwired in the ideology of Islam itself. Now, as you guys, thank you for you making a video, what I went through as well. You mentioned that luckily you haven't been abused yet. Yes. Unfortunately, Pakistan is the leader of this abusive culture at the moment. So because we're Pakistani ex-Muslims and atheists, that's why we're facing the brunt of it. And all the abuse, Apostate Prophet has spoken about it, that most of the abuse comes from Pakistan. Now Zara K is being trolled by these people. And you said yourself that you haven't been actually trolled in the real world, but only in the online world. But you got to understand, this online world is very close to the real world. I mean, when people, just imagine someone gets a hold of your address or photos of you, and that's why I'm actually telling everyone, all the ex-Muslim activists, that don't put any personal videos or photos of your children or your wives or any of that, because the people that we're dealing with, they have no moral compass. They believe in this. Now, again, you want to blame Islam for it, you want to blame the culture for it, whatever that is, we're not concerned about that. But what we're concerned about is protecting our lives and people we love. So online trolling or online threats is just the first step. I mean, these guys who came after me, they didn't know me personally either, but they were just trolling me. Now, obviously, because they lived in a Western country, I could finally manage to track them down, and and as I thought that who they were, you just if you go after them in the real world, when you take them out of this bubble that they're living in, they realize, oh, hang on, the real world is a lot tougher than just threatening to slaughter someone or kill someone's family on in front of your camera. So they backed off straight away. Now, some people say, however, that these guys weren't sincere in their apology or whatnot. Believe it or not, I'm actually speaking with one of these guys on my WhatsApp now quite regularly, and they're just normal people. And however they learn their mistakes, however they learn, it doesn't matter whether they learned it through the police or, as we say in Urdu, the danda gaya, they saw a stick. That's why they straightened themselves out. However they did it, that doesn't matter. What matters is they've realized, they've understood. And now we can use these influencers to appeal to their crowd as well. That, okay, hey, this is not okay. Let's debate, let's argue rationally and whatnot. And now they've probably learned about me too. And he made one video just recently. I actually told him, I said, now that you've understood, I believe that you really sincerely meant your apology. So, you can open your channel as well. As part of our agreement, I had told them you need to delete your channels. But now I said, you know what, that's okay. Because I would want him to use his audience and spread the message that it's okay to have differences. Differences are the only things that differences are responsible for where humanity stands today. If we didn't have differences, then we still would have been believing that, it's the sun that orbits the earth, not the other way around. Someone somewhere out there said, no, it's the other way around. They had differences. And then we went forward. So, these online trolls, it's very sad that it's just coming, most of it is coming from my country of birth, Pakistan. And,
before we move forward, I just want a quick question for Harris. Can you briefly elaborate on the nature of the threats, and were they just directed solely towards you or also towards your family members who still happen to be Muslim?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the worst thing, and that was the worst. That I couldn't understand that. People had told me about their family members as well, and I never brought it up. I never ever thought of about harassing their family or even them. I didn't even respond to their videos most of the time, but the videos they were making were they were filthy. I mean, there's no other word. So obviously, there were different types of people within that group as well. Some were very rapey and very disgusting threats. The other ones were like more graphic threats towards me and my family who is Muslim. They were doing that, and they didn't see any anomaly in that okay, we're just going after his family who happens to be Muslim. They happen to be on their side, and yet they're going after them. And and my dog was targeted as well. I don't know if you saw the video. So as I said, it just baffles belief that what makes normal people. Otherwise, I'm sure these guys are good guys. I mean, they've got their jobs, and when we spoke with them, they've got jobs. They've got some of them have got kids. Some of them just got married. They have wives, and they're just normal people. And what are they doing in this bubble? That they're solely driven by this blind belief, and they want to protect the honor of their religion. But in the real world, you just you just see the stick, don't even get the stick, but you just see the stick, and then they run away. They're like, okay, no, I don't want to defend my religion anymore. It's just, again, as I said, I don't want to embarrass those guys. I mean, I really appreciate it. As I said, I've been speaking with one other person. I'm okay with their apology. I know that they're sincere. And I'm helping them actually move on as well, because, they had to deal with backlash from their groups as well. They were trolling him as well. They were trolling them now that, oh, you're a coward. You ran away, blah, blah, blah. What kind of a Muslim you are, etc., etc. But they're like, in the real world, it doesn't work that way. I mean, I usually tell them, hey, if you're such a defender of faith and defender of Pakistan's honor, go to Kashmir. Let's see what you can do there. So, but yeah, it was an anomaly that they were targeting my family as well, who happened to be Muslim.
Yeah, wow. That's I didn't mean to say I haven't got any sort of threat. I mean, I have got people calling up my office and trying to get me fired, but I'm thankful that's the worst of what happened. I'm still a little bit traumatized by when I first came out. I did get some sort of really, really like wild messages. And now if someone sends me a message, even today, and I feel like it's going to go down that direction, I just ignore it right away. Like if somebody seems like kind of either like, you know, from the Middle East or Desi and the Muslim, and they have a fake picture, and they're like, if I feel like this is going to be abusive, I just ignore the message. I don't want to expose myself to that stress or whatever. And people don't realize like this is stressful having to deal with this. But nevertheless, I think you said it beautifully, honestly. Like you said it, that's a very honorable way of dealing with it. And that's a very honorable perspective. And like, you know, honestly, like I'm proud that you're saying what you're saying and how you're saying it, because you didn't have to take that approach. And the fact that, you know, people just think like atheists, you know, what kind of people, like the image Muslims sometimes have of atheists is like, you're smashing that right here. You're just like, you know what, these guys, I forgive them, move on, whatever. They were stupid. I mean, I think if it was like, if they took it further, then once the police got involved, then there's basically no going back. But thankfully that it was just a lot of online boasting, and you were able to cut it off, you know?
Look, I just want to make a correction. It's not just a verbal apology that I just accepted. I mean, I did involve the police. There were counterterrorism agencies involved in that. They interviewed them. They didn't just get intimidated by the viral tweets. Authorities were involved, and they asked me if I want to pursue this further. I actually got them off their backs. I told them, look, if you want to do whatever you want to do, that's entirely up to you. As far as I'm concerned, I'm finishing this matter now. Unfortunately, I mean, it doesn't actually work this way. They still have repercussions. I think they have been placed on certain watch lists or whatnot. I don't know about that. I've been speaking with the Australian counterterrorism team as well for a very long time, and I forwarded the details to them. What Australia does, what they tell me, that, you know, if they do ever try to come to Australia, they will be spoken to at the customs. I don't know. Again, I don't know whether that's happening or not, but authorities were involved, and they did ask me if I want to pursue it further. That's why I said I don't want to pursue it any further. But obviously, I mean, authorities can do whatever they want. They're not going to ask me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, understood. Should we get started with the presentation now? Do you want to add anything?
I'll just add quickly, just to give people a perspective, like the nature of the threats that I have received. I mean, it's not only limited to strangers online, like my cousins, my classmates, my aunties, some of my uncles. They've straight up threatened to kill me, to stab me, or kill my wife. In fact, there was one person who, while my wife was still Muslim and I was a murtad, or an ex-Muslim, messaged her to tell her to stab me in my sleep. This is the extent they want to go to, just to give you an idea.
Like Asma bint Marwan. Like Asma bint
Yeah,
Marwan.
just sleeping and they just stab you, right? But
well, at least we hope your child is not sleeping on your chest, because they removed the child.
Yeah, I remember
when Muhammad ordered his killings.
Well, like what we'll do now is, without further ado, we'll watch that 5-minute clip that Abdullah Sameer found online from a documentary. And just a warning that it is hard to watch, and seeing some of the emotions come out of people. And people, I honestly feel people do not realize what somebody has to go through if they get accused of blasphemy in Pakistan, and the severity and the consequences of this. So we'll get into that.
Can I just quickly add? Can I quickly just add one more point? Beej, I think, just asked a question, and let's hope there's no one in Australia doing that. By the way, I just wanted to add another story as well. This is how I came across the Australian counterterrorism teams, the officers. There was a guy who was actually looking for me in Australia. He wasn't very far away from where I lived. I just thought that he's just some Pakistani guy or whatever. And then his relative, someone who knew him, called, sent me a message. He said, this guy is actually literally crazy. He's been to prison. He once bashed someone with a vacuum cleaner pipe or something. So he said, don't take him lightly. So I reported that to the police, and then, police were like, yeah, look, I mean, police have they have the hands tied. Basically, they say, if they do something, if they stab you only, then we'll deal with them. But because of the nature of my work, so I did get a hold of Australian intelligence organizations, and they actually went to him, and they tracked him down, and they spoke to him, and they said, don't go anywhere near this guy. So and that's how I actually became aware of that. So So we're not so helpless. I mean, this is I just want to put it out there. So anyone out there who thinks that, oh, these guys are just sitting ducks, I just want to tell them, if you want to come prepared, because it's not going to be easy.
Oh, just before we jump into the clip, I personally have been threatened in Canada by a coworker who was a Hafiz of the Quran, and then I ended up quitting my job to go work somewhere else because of the threat, and I can't get along with him. And then he showed up, he stalked me to my other workplace to intimidate me. Yeah, that's how this has gone to that extent where. Luckily, the funny thing was, here's the funny thing, these people would find out where I work, they'd show up, but I was working in law enforcement in a sense. So they couldn't do jack shit because then they come show up to stab me. Here I am in a bulletproof vest with handcuffs on me. But I have literally encountered face-to-face people who threatened me online, came to my work to show up and intimidate me, eyeballed me and walked away. Just to give you an idea that this happens. Anyways, let's get to that video clip before we get further.
That's crazy. Okay, I'm gonna mute you guys. 1 second. Yeah, I'm just gonna mute you too, and I'm gonna put my screen on. Oops. And let me know if you guys can hear it okay in the chat.
I'm on my way to meet a family under a terrible shadow, an accusation of blasphemy. Pakistan, which is 97% Muslim, has some of the strictest blasphemy laws in the world. In some cases, the punishment is a death sentence.
We've come to an industrial area on the outskirts of Lahore to meet a family, one of whose members is currently in prison on a blasphemy charge. They don't want to take us directly to the house because they don't want the neighbors to know that they're visiting. So we've come to see a relative, and from here we'll be taken discreetly to meet the family.
This is Wakil. His 15-year-old brother Nabil is in prison awaiting trial after a blasphemous image appeared on his Facebook page.
ये ना रात को पिक्चर थी, तो वो रात को जब सैटरडे की नाइट को सोया था, तो सुबह जब उठा 10 बजे लेके जैसे खाने का बर्क ऊपर सूअर बैठा हुआ था.
The Kaaba in Mecca is Islam's holiest site. Putting an image of a pig on it, an animal Muslims consider unclean, is deeply offensive to them. Nabil says he has no idea how the picture got there. Someone at his work saw the picture and told the community elders.
कुछ लोग तो ऐसे इकट्ठे हो के आ गए थे, मतलब पीछे वाली गली में से, तो यहाँ पे भी खड़े हुए थे. वो कुछ कह रहे थे जैसे मामू है मेरा, इन्होंने कहा कि जला देंगे तुम्हें. वो पुलिस भी आ गए, कुछ गाँव के जो बड़े होते हैं, कुछ और ही चेयरमैन, वो आ गए, कह रहे थे कि आपको ये मार देंगे, जला देंगे, यहाँ से निकल जाओ. फिर हम इन लोगों ने स्टाफ पे छोड़ा, तो स्टाफ से फिर हम आगे चले गए चाचू के पास.
They're scared. More than 70 people involved in blasphemy cases have been murdered in the last 30 years. After months in hiding, they've risked returning here to their home. The family is still waiting for Nabil's case to come to trial, 2.5 years after his arrest.
हम तो उम्मीद ही रख सकते हैं खुदावंद पे कि जल्दी से बाहर आ जाए. वैसे हम ना तो हमारे पास इतने पैसे हैं कि हम खुद उसे निकाल लें. सैटरडे को जाना होता 2000-1500 लग जाता पैसे वहाँ पे. अगर नहीं ना जाए तो वो रोता है कि तुम मेरे पीछे नहीं आते.
Nabil has spent his 16th and 17th birthday in prison.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Nice meeting you. See you again. Bye-bye.
2013, a Christian rubbish collector called Salman was accused of blasphemy. An angry mob descended on his Christian neighborhood and torched the place. Dozens of homes were destroyed. Fearing for his life and protesting his innocence, Salman handed himself in to the police.
Hello.
Hello.
Marcel. Nice to meet you.
Yes.
His wife Sobia and their 3 children fled. They daren't go home and now live with her mother. Back in Lahore, Sobia has come to see Tahir Bashir, a lawyer at a Christian organization, for advice about getting her husband Salman out of prison.
मैं ठीक हूँ। और बच्चे जब मेरे भाई आते हैं तो बच्चे देखते हैं ना कि मामा इनके पापा ये कर रहे हैं, उनके पापा ये वो कर रहे हैं, तो उस वक्त मुझे पता था कि मुझे कितनी तकलीफ होती है। मैं कहती हूँ कि बस मैं सब कुछ दे सकती हूँ आप लोगों को, लेकिन वो जो प्यार है ना वो आप उनका बाप ही दे सकता, मैं नहीं दे सकती।
He says he can't discuss the details of the case, but he's happy to show me the files on another one. 4 men from the minority Ahmadi sect tore up a sticker they said attacked their faith. It said Prophet Muhammad backs those working against the Ahmadis. Ahmadis are a religious minority who identify as Muslim but are considered heretics by many Muslims.
It seemed to me that these men got sentenced to death because they ripped up a sticker.
You see the name of Muhammad in the stickers, which were torn and thrown in a dirty drain.
It sounded like the men were angry about something. There'd been a fight and they tore the sticker off, but they didn't intend to commit blasphemy.
This is the original sticker, which was torn and thrown in the drain. This is the seal of last prophethood. This one. Allah, Rasul Muhammad.
He argued in court that damaging the sticker that had the Prophet's name on it was blasphemy. For this, 3 of the men were given the death penalty. The 4th was murdered while in police custody by a 15-year-old boy who walked into the police station and shot him. The boy was arrested and convicted of murder.
And what has happened to those men who have been convicted?
They are in behind the bars, and their appeal is pending before the Honorable Lahore High Court, Lahore. Their death sentence would be confirmed after hearing their appeal.
And will you do your best to see that the death sentence is upheld?
Inshallah.
Will you be happy to see these men die?
Alhamdulillah. We are not only be happy, but also we bow our head before the Allah for our success in this case.
Okay. You just wanna, this lawyer in that video, and those of you who haven't seen a documentary, you should check out the full thing. It's worth watching. It's that lawyer is actually the one that's taking these cases to get these people killed. It's just bizarre. It's just when you watch that, you just can't believe it.
So it's like a 15-year-old boy, and then like 3 people went to jail over ripping a sticker, and now they're sentenced to death over ripping a sticker. How did this happen in the 21st century? Like, what? How could it possibly?
Well, I think this is why some people ask, and like, I mean, I try to be as respectful as I can, but I still, bring a little bit of humor in it. I try to humanize these ancient prophets. I call him Hazrat Muhammad. I don't face cartoons, but I do talk about his wives quite freely. I do talk about his sexual relationships, which are written and mentioned in their own books. I do talk about them in a way that Prophet Muhammad himself was just another human being. In Pakistan, the culture just went out of it just blew out of proportion, that every time you mention Prophet Muhammad, you got to start kissing your fingers and nails, and you got to say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. You got to stand up in the honor. If you don't say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam after Prophet Muhammad, people start literally fighting, because Muhammad enjoys the status higher than the God in Pakistani Islam. I don't know about Arabs, but in Pakistani Islam,
Especially the Barelvi, the Dawat-e-Islami guys, or the ones they are dancing and they pass out and go into trances.
Yeah, and so this is why it's very important that we actually humanize Muhammad himself. So that if Muhammad was just viewed as a prophet, or as how Christians view Jesus, if Muhammad was viewed like that, then nobody would have cared as much about ripping the sticker. My good friend Spartacus, he says there is a aqidat ki patti on their eyes, which means, I don't know how to translate that in English.
Like a blindfold of aqidah on their eyes.
It's respect. Aqidat means utmost respect. So it's just a blindfold of respect on their eyes, so they just cannot think beyond that. So we just got to take it off and say, look, this is your prophet. He married a 9-year-old girl, allegedly. I don't even use that argument as much, but sex slaves and slaves. He used to have sex, and just like any other person, he used to wash his backside or clean his backside with stones, etc. These points, they may find these things as humiliating or insulting, but that's really not my point anymore. Abdullah, Sameer, you know me. You used to say that, Harris, you're a little bit antagonistic back in the day. Maybe I was a little bit. I was a little bit angry at that time because Imran Khan had been murdered, and that had powered my activism. But now, obviously, that's gone 2 years, 3 years in the past. Now I'm trying to look at it strategically. So when I speak about these things, the only thing that we need in Pakistani culture, and this is what we're doing in Urdu, when these videos get viewed by thousands of people, they look at it, oh, he's talking about Prophet Muhammad. He's not abusing him, but he's not, putting him on a pedestal, or he's not putting him above God. He's talking about his sex life so openly. What's the big deal? That's the point. So it's not really the point. I mean, our critics say, well, why do you have to be so disrespectful? We're not being disrespectful. We're not even in Urdu. We say tu tabadi, which is like there's different versions of you. You can, in English, you can just say you, but in Urdu, you have you for a younger person, you for in an insulting manner, and you in a respectful manner. Yeah. So I even use the one in the respectful sense, just for the academic purposes, but we do talk about his issues that they don't want to talk about. The only the reason behind that is to humanize the character of Muhammad. So then people wouldn't arrest someone if you don't say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Pakistan is such a letdown and embarrassment that they just made a law that every time you write Muhammad, not only you put that little Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you also write Khatamul Nabiyyin, meaning he's the final prophet. Every time you write Muhammad, any way you write, you have to write final prophet. Right. This is a law. They made a law about it.
Oh, yeah.
There's a law about that?
They just passed the law. Yeah.
There's a law. This is like gender pronouns.
Wait till we get to the passport application. I added all of that juicy stuff at the end.
Okay.
Let's start with so a lot of people are saying that this is just culture, this isn't Islam. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually view how Muhammad behaved on this issue, how his Sahaba acted, and what they did upon this issue, and then we're also gonna go through a book of fiqh from scholars, so that people don't say that, oh, Abdullah Sameer and Abdullah Gondal or Harris are making this up as they go. No. We actually have too much evidence from Islamic books themselves, where it's been claimed by Islamic scholars that it's a unanimous agreement that the apostate should be executed and blasphemers should be executed and whatnot. So let's get to it. So we'll start off with one of the most famous hadith, "Man badalina faqtuluhu," whoever changes his religion, kill him. Numerously reported, and on the right side you see that it says that there's only 3 cases that a blood of the Muslim is allowed, and one of them, it says, is illegitimate sexual relations. The second one is apostasy, and the third is murder. So the guy says, I have not committed apostasy, and he goes on to justify that he shouldn't be killed. But you can see clearly here that a lot of the people did see apostasy punishable by death. And in fact, it's not just a fringe group from the Muslims. It's actually a majority of the Muslim scholars and the Sahaba took this precedent. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to the next slide. I'll actually skip this one for now, because this one we just show later that this guy gave a sermon and it's tied with Salman. But we'll go with the first 10-20 seconds just to show you what Dr. Asim al-Hakim and Dr. Muhammad Salah say about opinion on apostasy, for the punishment for apostasy. Sameer, you're muted yourself. That's why we can't hear the video.
Says, is the punishment for apostasy death in Islam? I heard someone say that one hadith is not enough evidence for this. The consensus of all scholars that if a person changes his religion from Islam to any other religion, the punishment should be execution, death.
A murtad is a person who accepted Islam willingly, then he converted. He abandoned Islam or he declared kufr. There are two cases. If a person entered Islam willingly or was born in Islam and is fully aware of the Aqidah, then he accepted Islam. There is a general consensus between the scholars that haddur ridda, or the punishment for ridda, is execution. And by the way, this is not...
Okay, so they add a little bit of extra stuff after that, but basically they say that there has to be a panel of judges and you don't have individuals going around and, you know, killing people. But if the judges decide that this guy deserves to be killed, then that this guy is actually a murtad, then he will be killed if he doesn't repent and come back to the religion. And then Muhammad Salah goes on with some ridiculous comparison to secularism and says in secularism they do the same thing. But anyways, yeah, well, that's not the point to argue with this guy here. But yeah, you want to go ahead, Abdullah?
Yeah, well, what we'll do, we'll go to the next slide, and then we'll finish up quickly the segment on the religious backdrop of it, and then we'll take our first call. So what we'll see here is, do we see cases of Sahaba executing apostates? Pardon me. On the left side, you see that there is a story of I believe it's a Jew, and he was in chains, and then he had accepted Islam, then converted to his religion, an evil religion, FYI. So then the Sahabi, the companion, is very adamant. He keeps pushing the other one. I will not sit down until you kill this apostate. And yeah, he commanded for it eventually, and he was killed. On the right side, we see that Ali burned some people apostates from Islam. The news reached Ibn Abbas. So he said, if it were me, I would have killed them according to the statement of Messenger of Allah. Whoever changes his religion, then kill him. And I would not have burned them because Messenger of Allah said, do not punish the people with the punishment of Allah. So this reached Ali, and he said, Ibn Abbas has told the truth. So now we have seen that this is not something that we've invented out of the blue. This is found in Muslim books. The Sahaba did it. Muhammad did it. We will even go deeper on to view the scholarly opinion. But what I wanted to ask Harris was, how many times do you come across people that bring up this hadith, especially from the subcontinent background? They use this to justify killing apostates or blasphemers. Do you come across that often? Oh, you're still muted, sir.
Oh, sorry. Look, it's I don't even think that people actually know or quote this hadith, because most Muslims we know are highly ignorant of the literature. It's actually come down what we call ravaya, or through the tradition. It comes down that anyone who blasphemes, for example, there's a very famous hymn or kind of it is a little bit catchy, so let me sing it for you. It goes something like Gustakh Rasool ki ek saza sartan se juda, and they've actually made it really melodious, and they put music in it and romanticize it, kind of like those ISIS videos where they used to have slow motion going, and they're burning people, and so they there's one particular group that's actually gained a lot of popularity in recent times, and they received something like 5% of votes or something like this, and it's predicted that they might even get more next time. So that's the slogan. And I think we're going to talk about these guys. You have it in the slide as well, maybe. So they don't necessarily read it from the books, even though it is in the books, as you just rightly mentioned. And historically, we have a narrative before Sunni schools have taught. They all say you can kill them, but they are a little bit different. Where they say, some say you give 3 days to repent, and obviously, if there's a sword hanging over your head, you might say after 3 days, yeah, look, I'm back to Islam. But in Pakistani law, unfortunately, that doesn't have that, which is why some of the traditional Pakistani scholars are saying that even in our ancient jurisprudence, we give an opportunity for someone to repent. But that's for apostates, not necessarily for blasphemers. Now, blasphemers is a tricky one, that if you've now insulted Prophet, as I said, as I sung the song, and that basically says there's only one punishment for a blasphemer. That's how the song goes. There's only one punishment for a blasphemer, just behead them. So it just goes by tradition, even though it is in the literature as well. So these people may not quote this, but they believe in this through popular clergy, through popular tradition that that's been given to them.
All right, that's a very good point. Now, what I was thinking, if you have any callers, we can take a call before proceeding to the deep end of the literature of Islamic scholars. Yeah.
Hello, doctor, medical doctor. Yes.
Dr. Zakir Naik, Assalamu alaikum, Habibi.
Yes.
Yani.
Gondal Bhai, I really liked your Ertugrul look. Now you look like Ertugrul has been robbed and is like staying in hiding, living in hiding. So my question is, the identity of Pakistan has been created on this Islam, but they want to compete against these Western countries too. So no matter what government comes in power, they cannot detach themselves from Islam and its ideology. So I don't think in near future, I don't see that these blasphemy laws and this kind of thinking from the Pakistani communities is going anywhere.
Okay, thank you so much for your question. I believe if I understood it correctly, just to rephrase it, the creation of Pakistan was because of Islam, and because it's intrinsically tied to Islam, it will always struggle to get out of the shackles of religion. Is that what it was?
Yes, at least for near future, yeah.
Okay, but what I'll do is I'll let Harris answer it first, and then I'll give my 2 cents. Thank you so much for your call.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for taking me in. Thank you, guys.
For a very long time, I think there's a part of me that still believes that countries evolve, because we have examples of Western countries and even countries like United States, where I've always said that United States, when it was founded on freedom, yet they still have slavery, and all the founding fathers justified slavery. But, today, 100 years later, slavery was abolished. So I am a firm believer that countries evolve, but unfortunately it can take 100 years or maybe 200 years for some of the minutest of changes. So I've always had that kind of a faith for Pakistan as well, hoping that one day it would naturally evolve without a bloody revolution, without overthrowing the state, and without any of that. I've always believed that. But this is why I think I had lots of hopes tied to Imran Khan. And I knew that the guy is somewhat westernized, somewhat secularized. He does have some modern views mixed with traditional Islam. And we can see he actually tried. He tried to bring an Ahmadi in his cabinet. He failed. He gave in to the public pressure. Just recently, he opened up Kartarpur, which is a Sikh pilgrimage. He facilitated that. But yesterday there was a train accident. 20 pilgrims died. And that's bound to happen. We don't know whether that's a terrorist attack by hardcore extremist Muslim. We don't know. I don't want to go into that. But that's barely been open for less than a year. He's tried. And now he's trying to open up a temple in Islamabad, which means the House of Islam. And the whole country is losing its backside over it. So I can see that. And I also know that he's trying to bring in a law that would try to, in some capacity, it would try to prevent forced conversion of Hindu girls and abduction of Hindu girls where they're converted into Islam. He's trying to do all of that, but he can't do it because there's so many problems in that country. It's not just extremism that's a problem. There's actually so many other problems as well. I mean, how can he talk about it when there's coronavirus going on? His government is weak. The whole political hierarchy is corrupt. And then he himself is confused. So, if Imran Khan himself was purely liberated, purely secular, then fair enough, he might have had a chance. But he himself is confused. Now, he's trying to bring in this Ertugrul thing, this Turkish history as Pakistani history. Now, that has its consequences. I was actually reading a very interesting post that I haven't watched the show Ertugrul. It's been a massive hit in Pakistan. where he captures some Christians and he kills them. And yesterday, or the day before yesterday, there was a Christian guy murdered in Peshawar because he entered a Muslim neighborhood. And
What?
some people were saying, so some people were saying that, well, he said that Muslims, this is a neighborhood of believers. And I think the guy's name is Nadeem Masih. Poor guy was murdered. He just recently bought a house in that neighborhood, and because he's Christian, so they killed him. Well, that's what been news circulating. News somehow don't say that it was a religious issue, but they do give you a hint. And then you see social media posts coming from credible people who say that this was actually about religion. So then you're confusing the nation even further. You're confusing people even further. You're showing them this glorified, romanticized religious history where empires are being formed on the basis of religion, and you're saying these Turks were us, these Persians or these Arabs were us, and you're in the process you're forgetting your own roots, which are like this Indian subcontinent is the actual who we are. I mean, that's our family, to be honest. But we teach them that the people who fought against Muhammad bin Qasim and all these guys, those guys were evil guys. No, but they were sons of this land. But they're being written as villains. So as a result, what you get is not only just a confused population, but also confused leaders like Imran Khan himself. So sorry, I babbled on a little bit. So I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I believe that it would evolve, but to be honest, I don't know. Maybe we need a revolution.
I feel like you said, countries change and evolve, and especially in the day and age we live in, where things are so vividly different one day and next thing the other. With Imran Khan, like you said, he himself, like if you look at his history, he was a full-on playboy, and he drank, and he was a party. He was hanging out at I think Buckingham Palace. Like he was right up there, and he's at Oxford. I think he's a graduate from Oxford University, right? So he's a very learned guy, and he's seen it, been there, lived it all. But as you can see, it's not just about him, right? Because the problem with Pakistan is that the population, the literacy rate is so low that they don't even understand concepts such as freedom of religion, right? To the fact that some of them will be mad at India for suppressing Muslims as a minority, which is totally wrong. But then they can't see that they're doing the same thing to Ahmadis. That's what I'm trying to get to, right? At the end, yes, Pakistan will eventually come out of it, like the US got out of slavery. Is it gonna be an easy road? Probably not. What's the best way to do it? I think the best way is to pump in a lot more money into education, and hopefully that will illuminate people's minds enough that they can see through the mullah culture that has literally taken over and almost destroyed the country. I mean, there are also like instances. It's like there was like a silent revolution in Canada and Quebec in the 60s. In 10 years, like it went from Catholic to the whole society changed to secular, right? So there are examples in history of that. Like I said, there's so many variables that Pakistan might have a different case. Apart from that, I was thinking if you want to take another call, or you want to move to another slide. Let's take another call.
Hey, is it Amel?
It's Omar, yeah. It's
Hi, Omar.
Is my audio okay?
Yes. Hello, Habibi from Canada.
Happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day to you guys too. Yeah, I'm of Egyptian descent, and I was very glad that you brought up like not respecting the Prophet too highly, because when I came out of the religion, first I was trying like the intellectual stuff. It works on some people, but in certain communities, it's a minority. And there is something that I was doing instinctively. And then one of the Muslim people who replies to our videos, we have a channel, me and a couple of friends, he said that the main problem we do is not the arguments we say. The main problem for them is that we break down the sacredness of the religion and the Prophet. Once that falls down, any Muslim can go on by himself, and especially if he reads Arabic, because I wanted to ask you guys about that. We were preparing an episode, and I was talking about the translations. The translations are not honest. They're more Western modern translation. Like when he's talking about Mary, which first of all he says Mary ibnat Imran, which is he's supposedly talking about Jesus's mother, but actually son of Imran, that's daughter of Imran, that's Moses' sister. So obviously he doesn't know the difference between them, but we'll let that go. He says we breathed into her vagina, and he says fi, which mean in it. When they translated these, say in her.
Is
it's
that
not
the
in her. That's
Surah Maryam verse
Al-Tahrim.
19?
No, it's Surah Al-Tahrim verse 11.
Okay.
Sorry, verse 12. He says we breathed into it, not into her. In all the translation I can find, because to a Western person it sounds ridiculous when you say she guarded her vagina and then we breathed into it. It just sounds so ridiculous that they had to fix it.
This one?
Yep. It says nafakhna fihi, which means into it. Most of the translation I can find, she said, if you look at it.
It's interesting that she brings it up because there's a variant reading in Surah 19, verse 9. I think in the Hafs it says li ahaba, and I think in the one of the other reading it says li yahaba li ghulamin dhakiya. You can open it because that changes the meaning. It's to the angel said Allah has given you versus I am giving you, something like that. But it could go. We'll digress into another side topic.
Yeah, thanks for the comments. What's your channel called?
Yeah.
It's called The Other. I can send you the. We'd like to have you guys on that. I tried to messenger you, but I think you get too many messages, so it got lost.
Sorry, man.
Send it in the private chat. Like here, I can post.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much, though, man.
Thank
Omar,
you, guys.
it was great.
Appreciate the fellow apostate, activism, working together to.
Before Omar leaves, I just want to say one thing. Have you noticed that there are these new translations popping up, especially the clear Quran, or there's the modern Quran translation, where they've changed it quite dramatically to confirm to 21st. Like the verses about hell have been changed to not reflect the punishments, or the holy descriptions are different. It's very interesting. Like, just wanted to point that out.
If you're Western, you might be tricked by it, but if you know Arabic, it's pretty clear that that's not an honest translation. It's just
one thing I wanted to say was the verse that talks about the hurs. It says "Wakawaib atraba." Can you tell me what's the literal translation for that in English?
It means her breasts are of medium and they're firm. That's what basically it means. Now they say the modern translation I heard is that they're beautiful and they're well proportioned. That's how so yeah, it's you're
so literally. So it literally means that they're firm and round. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Wow.
And not too big. Obviously, they didn't like big. I don't know why. That's what they liked.
Would that be silicone implants?
That's what Muhammad liked, I guess.
Thank you for your comments, man. Yeah, I appreciate your call. And that's actually a good topic, like how they're slowly changing and whitewashing or maybe sugarcoating their translations is actually something.
I had a problem about that when I first came out of Islam. I hated the moderate Muslim, like the Muslims, the normal Muslims call them cute Muslims, which means they're not real Muslims. That's what they say in Arabic. They're cute. But then I rethought about it when I got a little older, and I think you can't get rid of it. You're not going to get rid of Islam. The only way is to reform it. Like, you can't take people out of it. Like, it's not gonna be hard.
Yeah. I mean, you can take people out of it. We've taken tons of people out of it, but the majority won't come out of it, I think.
So I think
on the short term, you have to reform it if you want to live in peace. Otherwise, we're gonna have problems. So I'm trying to. But on an instinctual level, you're like, no, you believe in BS and just come out of it. But actually, a lot of people call us, and even like that's why disrespecting the Prophet and stuff like that, it works. Like we have people who call us who are like, we have this thing called tuk-tuk. I think you have it in the Indian subcontinent. It's like a 3-wheeled transportation thing where you
tuk-tuk,
sit in
yeah,
the back.
Chingsi.
Yeah, we have tuk-tuk drivers that call us every day and say we follow some of the funnier stuff, the stuff that are not very intellectual, and it's communicated with them. I never thought that we would reach these people. I mean, they're just not. So it works. I'm very optimistic about it. I wasn't at first. I was just doing it for fun. Now I'm a bit optimistic.
That's awesome. I do think that, we kind of glossed over this, but this is a good point, that many people don't realize that Muslims actually worship Muhammad in many ways. Everything that you would define worship as, I mean, Muslims are doing that to Muhammad without actually calling it worship, like, glorifying him, remembering him, praising him, killing anyone that, insults him. Like, all of these things are related to worship, right? And so I don't think they realize that they've made a god out of Muhammad.
And if you're interested in that, it didn't start that way. Like at the beginning, if you go through the texts, at the beginning he had 0 miracles except for the Quran, and then you can see it at 50 Hijra year, he starts to have a little bit of miracles that show up in the tradition, and then by the year 200, he's like superhuman that does the weird stuff, and so it's a progressive thing. And I was commenting about that. If you blaspheme against Allah, you can repent. You have 3 days and you can repent. If you curse the Prophet, there is no repentance. You're not allowed.
This is a very good point he's actually brought up, which we'll go through later in the books. There's a huge discussion that if you blaspheme, many scholars say your repentance is not accepted. Even you can repent to Allah, Allah will forgive you, but the punishment still has to be imposed because you still said those words. There's a huge, it's insane. Yeah.
The justification I heard is that the Prophet is dead, so he can't forgive you, but Allah is alive, so he can let it go. So that's it. I'm sorry for taking too long.
I thought Muhammad hears the salawat that we send on him every time.
Yeah, apparently he's busy.
Thank you so much for your call. Thank you so much.
I'll send you the link for our channel and
please we'll send it in the private chat here so it doesn't get filtered out on the live YouTube. Okay,
Harris, show everybody your shirt, man. It's a Science Hafiz. It's exclusive merchandise.
So basically, what it does is, so non-Urdu speakers or non-Indian Hindi speakers wouldn't probably understand. I don't know about Abdullah Sameer if you understand, because in our culture we say Allah Hafiz. May God look after you. So like this has actually become, the slogan has become really popular. A lot of people just say Science Hafiz, Science Hafiz. So basically, instead of saying Allah Hafiz, we're now saying Science Hafiz. May science be with you. I said it initially just to troll them, but then I actually thought about it. It actually means a lot.
I mean, one of the things that Omar, like you're saying too, is a lot of the people don't care about the intellectual arguments. They actually will be more affected by a lot of the humorous approach. Not to say that the arguments you're making are completely devoid of any points. What I'm trying to say is the way you deliver them and the way you show it to people. Sometimes mockery is actually a good way to highlight the absurdity. And what's interesting is it's sunnah, because Abraham did the exact thing with the gods of Nimrud when he broke all the idols, and then he mocked them by saying, oh, here's the biggest idol, he's holding the stick, ask him, he broke him, right? To highlight the absurdity of idol worship. But like Harris said, and Omar said that those points may reach these people or penetrate easier than, let's say, if you're talking about detailed tafsirs of the Quran and what the scholars have said about, if you need to have iddah for or have muta or whatnot, right? So, I see that you put his store. So if anybody wants those shirts, there's actually a bunch, 2 colors. Go to his store and you can order some.
I'm really sorry. I started it just because it just spreads the message. At the back it says in Hindi that मैं नास्तिक हूँ, meaning I'm a Nastik, which is a Hindi word for an atheist. I'm really sorry. They play a role, but sorry, I'm hearing myself. So I'm the price is really a lot because it's made in USA, and then so I'm not making any profit out of it. Just you have to, for the sake of it, I have to put 50 cents profit in order for it to make it work. But the main purpose is that it actually, if you're wearing that in Pakistan, you probably can't do it, but if you in India, you can spread that message. So it basically, I'm not only, even though 95% of my content is about in Urdu, it's about Islam. I sometimes really touch Hinduism and Christianity as well. I'm now starting to get callers and messages from Hindus who now say that, you know what, it all nonsense. Like we don't even believe in Hindu nationalism or Hindutva. I'm actually going to upload a couple of videos as well. So it's not only just for about Islam as well, even though I primarily speak about Islam, but it's, you know, we are radical atheists, so to speak. So it applies on everything. Same arguments apply on Yahweh and everything. Yeah.
Okay, let's get to next. We have a lot of callers actually.
Yeah, let's take a few slides. Do you want to take a few slides?
Okay, let me do it. Let me put the slides back on.
Like we'll go to the scholarly opinion from one book, and then we'll take a few calls. So what we're going through here is this book called Reliance of the Travel. I think it's written in the 14th century. It's a Shafi book of fiqh manual, very well regarded. It's very it's a very credible book, and it quotes a bunch of opinions. So the chapter on apostasy, if you see, it says apostasy from Islam, leaving Islam is the ugliest form of unbelief, kufr, and the worst. It can come about through sarcasm. So like we were talking about, like mockery and sarcasm could make you an apostate. To the point where I want to focus on the trivialities they bring up that makes one warrant the death penalty. So, for example, if somebody is told trimming your nails is a sunnah, and somebody replies, "I would not do it even if it were," as opposed to it's equivalent to committing apostasy. If you said that that's not sunnah, like this is what the guy's saying.
Well, funny answer. I'm not doing that. I don't care if sunnah.
But then it says like the condition, like if you're puberty. If you reach the age of puberty and you're sane and you voluntarily apostatize from Islam, the quote words are, he deserves to be killed. Okay. Go on to the next one. It is obligatory for the caliph or his representative to ask the person to repent and return to Islam. If he does, it is accepted from him. Now remember, this is about apostasy. We're not talking about the repentance from blasphemy yet. Okay. But if he refuses to repent, he's immediately killed. Okay. If he is a free man, nobody but the caliph or his representative may kill him. Here's the funny: there is no indemnity for killing an apostate or any expiation, since it is killing someone who deserves to die. If he apostatizes from Islam and returns several times, he'll still be accepted like back into the religion, but because of his flip-flopping, he'll be disciplined. And I think that is up to Taseer, as to the judge, to discipline him. He says that if you say Allah is the third of the three, or you jokingly say I am Allah, unless you are, if it's a slip of tongue or you're quoting somebody else, that is also considered apostasy. And then it says to revile Allah or his messenger is apostasy. Now here's something important. Apostasy is automatically blasphemy, because as soon as you apostate, you are openly saying that, yes, I do not believe in Muhammad anymore. He's a fraud. So with your apostasy, you imply that. So that also becomes blasphemy in the eyes of a lot of scholars, as you can see here. And then to be sarcastic about Allah's name, his command, his interdiction, his promise, or his threat. So you can't joke about Allah or any religious ethics like this, because you can be going into kufr. Let's go to the next slide. I think we have one more slide from this book, and then we can take a call. So if you deny any verse or any scholarly consensus, this could be deemed as apostasy. You can mockingly say, I don't know what faith is. You can be an apostate or classified as an apostate. It says that if you say there's no power to save through Allah, and you say, no, I can't do it, that too. I mean, there's one where it says that if you don't teach somebody the shahada despite knowing it, that's also apostasy. Like, to describe a Muslim or someone who wants to become a Muslim in terms of unbelief, so doing takfir, you become kafir. As you can see, that there's a lot of, like, to revile the religion of Islam comes up again, another instance of blasphemy, and apostasy is automatically blasphemy as well. To believe in things, So you deny the existence of angels or jinn or the heavens, you're an apostate. Now, why is this important? Because a lot of Muslims have started doing what? They reduce the jinns and the angels and the heavens and these stories to metaphors. If you do that, according to many scholars, you will be deemed as an apostate. Another thing, or to deny that Allah sent the message to Muhammad, and the guy says you can keep going.
It's a big checklist. It's a big checkbook.
Yeah, but it's like you can see that we didn't make it up. This is literally from the scholars, from the Muslim books, and these are big scholars writing this. These are manuals that scholars refer to for these matters. And what I just read is quite shocking and gruesome. And that's what we were talking about, that people are normally unaware of this, but this knowledge gets passed down through tradition, like Harris said, through the mullahs and khutbahs in the masajid and whatnot. But what I wanted to show was we definitely can trace these issues back to Islamic literature, Islamic scholars. It's not made up. Anyways, Harris, you want to add anything to it, or Sameer?
Yeah, can I go first?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to respond to this comment. Where are these laws being implemented? We're going to show you how these laws actually affect real world things and real world people and real world beliefs, and how people behave towards apostates and disbelievers and Ahmadis and people are actually jailed and attacked and killed. We've already told you how some of these things actually affected us personally, myself, Harris Sultan, Abdullah. So even if, even if there's no Islamic state right now, we still need to talk about these laws because they can come back at any time. Like Islamic revivalism can come back any day. Islamic law can come back any day. So we need to talk about it. We need to discuss these things because, frankly speaking, it happens from time to time where Islam goes down and all of a sudden it goes up, and there's an Islamic movement that comes and it spreads like wildfire, and then it goes down again and it comes back again. So the best way to fight bad ideas is with good ideas. So this is why we're talking about this. Is why we're showing that we're not just making this up. These are actually Islamic beliefs that are actually taught by scholars. So that's all I have to say for that. Harris, do you want to say anything before we take questions?
Yeah, well, I'll just address this question as well, where it says where these laws being implemented. Surely you're aware that there are 12 countries where apostasy is punishable by death. And guess what? They're all Islamic countries. So maybe this has something to do with that. But there's a 13th country, which is our Pakistan. Now, apostasy is not punishable by death there, but blasphemy is. So as Abdullah Gondal was pointing out, how the different opinions of scholars, where he says that, okay, even if you sarcastically make a comment or inadvertently, when a judge asks you. So now, for example, there's a law that was passed in Pakistan. Islamabad High Court made this resolution, gave an order that any non-Muslim can become a Muslim without appearing in the court. Now, that's why what I refer to that Imran Khan is trying to pass the law that they have to appear in the court as well. So in that case, we can at least ask them, hey, are you becoming a Muslim out of your free will, or you've been kidnapped? Okay, so but that law doesn't exist right now. Last time, Pakistan People's Party tried to do that in 2013, I believe, and the mullahs all jumped up and down and they gave in to the public pressure. So, but in 2017, they passed a law that if you are a Muslim and then you want to convert to another religion, you have to appear in court. As Abdullah Gondal mentioned in the opinions of the traditional scholars, when a judge asks you, why did you leave Islam? What are you going to say? You're going to say, well, I don't believe in that, blah, blah, blah. So inadvertently, in other words, you're basically saying, I don't believe in Islam because I believe Muhammad is fraud. This is all nonsense. I don't believe in that. Aha, that's blasphemy. Now we've got you. So this is why it's no surprise no one is going to go to the court and say, I've converted to, I've left Islam. I was planning to go to Pakistan and make a statement, but then for my own good, I became too popular. So I think it's not advisable. I do speak with a couple of Pakistani ministers. One is a provincial minister. One is a National Assembly's minister. He's a Muslim. They're both Muslims, but they speak they watch my content, and I am in touch with them on my WhatsApp. And they said, Harris, brother, please don't come to Pakistan. If you come to Pakistan, we won't be able to let you go, and then there'll be diplomatic pressure from Australia and all this that we can't handle it. Please don't come. So I know that there are voices within the government that want to change, and some people are saying that what Imran Khan is doing. you know, as I said, Imran Khan himself, I'm sorry to say, Mr. Prime Minister, he's confused. He wants to hold these traditional values, as Abdullah pointed out, that those traditional values, traditional teachings, they are directly coming from the Islamic history, very rich scholarly history of Islamic studies. It's coming from that. You can't hold the two. You either become fully Islamic like Saudi Arabia or Iran, or you become a modern progressive secular country. You can't blend the two. And unfortunately, for the last, at least particularly in the last 40 years or so, Pakistan has been making this effort to somehow merge Islam and the modern progressive democratic world all into one. It's just and that's why it's not working. People listen to the Maulvis, people listen to the clergy in the mosques, and that's where they hear that blasphemers should be killed, apostates should be killed. For example, very quickly, I'll just wrap it up now, that when they make this, when Imran Khan proposed that, okay, the state will help you build a temple in Islamabad, House of Islam, this is the capital of Pakistan, there was a petition made in the Supreme Court saying that this is a Muslim country, and by virtue of its name, Islamabad is a House of Islam. We can't make a temple here. They can live here. Minorities can live in Pakistan, but we can't make the places of worship in a House of Islam. So the Supreme Court threw that off. They said, well, it's not. It might be in Islamic jurisprudence, but it's not in the Constitution of Pakistan. So there are little technical holes that they're trying to fill, and that's why it's so important that we just keep hitting the main psyche of the population, keep telling them this is wrong, this is where you make mistakes, this is why you're stupid, basically.
I just want to address one comment, and then do you want to do more slides? Should we take a couple of questions? I think we should take a few questions because we have a lot of people waiting. I'm just going to answer this question. We need a political party for mulhids, for atheists, or we need a party that are committed to mulhids. I completely disagree. We need a party that is for people that takes everyone, that's humanistic, that cares about people, that cares about everybody. That's like liberalism should be able to handle, and secularism should be able to handle whether you're atheist or not atheist. We don't need a party just for atheists. That's tribalistic thinking still. Yeah. And I heard, Yuval Harari say something interesting, which he said in an interview with Sam Harris. He said that nationalism is actually a good thing. And he said the reason it's a good thing, not the nationalism that says that you guys are bad and we are good, but the nationalism that allows you to help the other 1 billion people or 300 million people in your country. You don't know anything about them, but you're willing to pay your taxes. You're willing to actually give money so that they will have, for example, proper roads and healthcare and all of these things. We're all working together in the nation, and we help each other, even though we don't know these people. So as long as we have a good system based on good values, we don't need to think in terms of being tribalistic. And yes, it is tribalistic to be nationalistic, but I think that a little bit of that is actually a good thing. I agree with him on that. Do you guys want to add anything, or should I just take questions?
You can take questions.
Okay, Talal. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, Talal.
Yes, so I have actually 3 points that I have written down during your conversation until now.
Okay.
So the first question from all three of you: advice for Pakistani ex-Muslim, family is still in Pakistan and highly educated, but can they come out? Should they risk to come out? Because they probably still have to go to Pakistan. And on this podcast, let's not podcast, but on this conversation that you are having, you are dealing with this question of Taseer and blasphemy. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a very clear stance on that, and I very vividly put it forward that if you are a foreign citizen, if you're an expat Pakistani, if you are a British citizen or Canadian or whatever Western citizen that you are, and if you live with your family, like your immediate family, your kids and your wife and kids, or mother, father, your immediate family is also living with you in a foreign country, you should not be hiding. Even though you can go to Pakistan, you can still go to Pakistan. Trust me, if you have a British passport or Canadian passport, they're not going to touch you, because this will become a massive issue. I know I'm asking you to to take that risk. But fair enough. I'm just saying, if you're a full-time activist, then fair enough, don't go. I wouldn't go to Pakistan now either. But if you are just like an ordinary, normal Pakistani living in a Western country along with your family, you should not hide yourself. You should say, I'm an atheist. Okay, don't abuse, don't blaspheme, don't cross the limits, but be sensible. But say, I am an atheist. Because I think it's high time now that now if you can roles reverse, if you are in Pakistan, or if you are in a foreign country and your family is in Pakistan, then don't do it. Because we know in that case they blackmail them. They get to your family members. They do blackmail. We have plenty of examples. So then don't do it. Don't come out, or at least don't blaspheme. But if, as I said, if in the first case, if all your family is living in a foreign country, do come out in the sense that, like you speak with us, they're not going to come after you, because then we have to bombard them with numbers that there's so many atheists and so many ex-Muslim living in Western countries, and they can't do anything about it. And they won't do anything about it. They won't come after you. They can't do anything. We are bigger targets, so they're not even going to come after us, like at a state level. So what that does is, we owe it. We owe it to Mashal Khans of Pakistan. We owe it to all these other people who are being persecuted in Pakistan right now. Abdullah and I, we just heard about this, another story in Pakistan. We're working to get him out and whatnot. We owe it to these people. They can't speak. They can't come out openly. But we can, as we have the protection of a Western passport.
All right.
I add to it too. Like, I mean, I know people very close to me. I mean, I can't discuss details, but people very close to me that I know, they're on the run in the country because, like you said, if you tell them, your parents will out you to the authorities. I know people this has happened. Now imagine that your parent will out you to the authorities and put your life at risk because you blasphemed, allegedly, a man who died 14 centuries ago. Blasphemy is killing the living to defend the honor of dead men. It makes no sense, right? And if you're in Pakistan, like I said, be very careful. But also Harris said, like, you have to be very careful. Like, there's a lot of variables. Some people's families are extra religious. Some people are very liberal, but they live in Pakistan. They can afford to have these conversations with their families. Others can't. But like you said, be calculated and be smart about it. As to the question, why are our families still in Pakistan? I mean, they're Muslims. They shouldn't have to fear anything. That's it. The only issue occurs is, here's one thing that happened. I'll give you an example. I know of people in Pakistan who, when they left the religion, their families had to put announcements in newspapers or at news channels so that they can say, I've disowned my son, I'm not sheltering him, so that nobody can claim that you're helping an ex-Muslim and hence you're aiding the enemy of Allah and hence they can attack you. This is the extent people get affected. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I have been ex-Muslim for past like 6-7 years, so I am aware of all of these problems. But you guys have more like contact others, so I just wanted to get some perspective on it. Like, I am aware of Pakistan reality, ground reality, what that is. So second is small comment on what Harris said. Actually, Imran Khan and optimism, like he was optimistic about it. So I think his optimism was not misplaced. The issue was, what Ziaul Haq did back in 1970s, those people are at the realm now. Those people have grown up. Those people that saw all of that, they are at those positions that all of that conservatism, and it will take this generation, what it's going through, probably 20-30 years to get all of this. I don't know what's the right word for this. I'm just looking for some better word to use than weed out of the system. From the Pakistan, all of this bad,
the corruption,
once this will grow up. And my last comment is regarding somebody asked that question, where these laws are implemented, and I would like to give that person example of Asia Bibi, who almost actually got hanged to death, and one lawyer who in Multan, who actually tried to fight the case for a teacher in university who was accused of blasphemy, and he was killed in his law chamber. So it is not that just these laws affect only the
Asia
people.
Bibi's lawyer was killed as well.
No. Oh, that I'm not actually aware of.
Yeah, we actually have some slides on that, so we'll get to
All
that.
right. So that was just the answer to that person. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. I want to go back to the slides before we take any more questions. Thank you for calling, Talal. Abdullah Gondal, if you can just, I'm going to put the slide on and just explain it.
Okay, so there will be many examples, and you see in Muhammad's life, and even people after him, where people were killed for blasphemy, right? And Muhammad actually ended up killing a bunch of poets, and it ended up becoming a dead poet society, as I'd call it. He had a knack for killing poets. So we'll get to the details later on. But do these instances where Muhammad killed somebody for writing satirical verses or poetry against him, can these incidents be used as evidence to justify blasphemy laws? Indeed, and they were exactly used in that way, like we will see in Ash-Shifa, in a book by Qadi Iyad later. What I'm trying to say, this is one example of Muhammad killing a poet for blasphemy. If we go to the next slide.
Someone's asking, show me one example where the Prophet killed an apostate in the hadith. It's like we're gonna get to that. Here's an example right now.
So there's the singing slave girls and the murdered concubine. So here he had two singing girls, Fartana and her friend, who used to sing satirical songs about the apostle. He ordered that they should be killed with him. So he killed that one guy. And then another was Al-Hawaris al-Nuqayd. Sorry, I can't read, the text is small because it's minimized. One of those who used to insult him in Mecca. So we see that there's quite a few instances of Muhammad literally killing women, like killing slave girls for singing songs about him that were satirical, right? As for Ibn Khattab's two slave girls, and goes into details of how they were killed. Now on the right side, what we see is the murdered concubine. Now what ended up happening was there was a blind man, right, and he had a slave mother, an Walad, a sex slave that had given birth to two of his sons, I believe. Yes. She would revile the messenger of Allah, and the guy would say, please stop. Now, one night she began to slander the Prophet and abuse him. Now this guy is narrating how he killed her. So he took a dagger, placed it on her belly, pressed it, and killed her. A child who came between her legs was smeared with the blood that was there. When the morning came, the Prophet was informed about it. He assembled the people and said, I adjured by Allah, the man who has done this action, I adjure him by my right to him that he should stand up. Jumping over the necks of the people and trembling, the man stood up. He sat before the Prophet and said, O Messenger of Allah, I am her master. She used to abuse you and disparage you. I forbade her, but she did not stop. I rebuked her. She did not abandon her habit. Now here's the funny bit. It's just not funny, it's just sad. I have two sons like pearls from her, and she was my companion. Last night she began to abuse and disparage you, so I took a dagger, I put it on her belly, and I pressed it till I killed her. The Prophet said, oh, be witness, no retaliation is payable for her blood. This man kills his slave girl, his concubine, who's also the mother of his two kids, because he was swearing at the Prophet. This guy, it doesn't get clearer than that. And the Prophet clearly said that it's totally okay. And what's also interesting is we'll go see later on that we see even more examples given by Qadi Iyad in his book about such examples. All right, and let's go to the next slide. What do we have next?
Okay, then we'll take calls after that.
Yeah, it is Sahih. Actually, what we can do is we can take a call now.
Sure.
And then we can keep talking.
I just want to add.
Yeah.
I just want to add to this guy. I mean, Smarks killing wrestling, and there's another one, the most famous one. That's in Bukhari or Tirmidhi as well. How Muhammad was trying. He attempted to kill Ibn Sara, who used to write for Muhammad, and
Yeah, Abdullah bin
Yeah.
yeah.
Abdullah bin Sara, yeah. So when he apostatized and then ran away, and then at the moment of conquering, when they conquered Mecca, they captured him, they brought him, but he was a friend of Uthman. And Uthman said, "Oh, Prophet, I brought him. He's accepted Islam again, forgive him." But Prophet is like, I can't say no, but I really want to get him killed. He just looks at his people, and they didn't get the eye signal. And he said, okay, because Uthman is pressing on him. Uthman was Prophet Muhammad's cash cow. He was his ATM machine, so he couldn't really offend him. So when he left, when Ibn Sara left, and Uthman left, Muhammad said, "Why didn't you take his neck off?" He said, "Well, we thought that you forgave him." And he said, "No, oh Prophet, oh dear Prophet, if you had signaled us from your eyes, we would have taken his neck off." And then Muhammad said, "Well, winking and eye signaling doesn't suit someone like me, because I'm a great guy." So he did say that. The other story is obviously Nadir ibn Harith, who used to say that, "Oh Prophet, you these are ancient stories, that you've copied from ancient sources." And then Asma bint Marwan, the story that you mentioned, there was another guy called Abu Afaq. There was another guy called Uqba. There was another guy called Uqba. There are so many people that your prophet actually killed, and all these guys were poets. I wrote that in my book, especially Asma bint Marwan and Al-Nadir's poems that he had written. They were bureaucratic in language. They weren't abusive. They were just like, like ancient poetry. And Muhammad didn't like it, because obviously this is the ancient propaganda war. The poets were like superstars at the time. So, I see that where he's saying smart skill. Now he's asking for references. Bro, we're not going to do your Googling for you. I just gave you names. Just look them up. You'll find plenty of evidence. And your best defense, let me preempt it, what your best defense is going to be. Your best defense is going to be, oh, it's a weak hadith. Of course it's a weak hadith. When we get you we just squeeze them a little bit. You just say, oh, it's just a weak hadith. So you know what? It's not about you. You guys can just come here and deny whatever. That's entirely up to you. But when we tell this, and this is what hurts you, when we tell this, when we open your own books in front of the ordinary people who have never heard of these things, they say, "Wallahi, I've been believing in this nonsense for so long." And that's how you make a Muslim into an ex-Muslim.
Okay, so thank you for that. Let's take some questions. Devin.
Hello, Devin.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, how are you people?
Good. How are you doing?
I am a Pakistani. And I am a medical student. And I'm really kind of emotional right now, because this topic always makes me very emotional. So I want to ask 2 questions. One is for Harris Sultan personally, and the other is a general question for all of you. Okay, Harris, what do you think the reason of failure of Imran Khan? As we know that he has spent a part of his life in Europe, and he has seen everything in Europe, the beauty of freedom of speech, the beauty of freedom of expression. But when it comes to him as a prime minister, when he tries to empower the minorities, when he tries to make some examples in his country to empower the minority, he always fails. So don't you think that this failure is because he fails to recognize that there is a difference between the society of Europe and society of Pakistan? I mean that he should have moved gradually, step by step, first by changing the mentality of our nation, and then he should have passed these laws and try to make these examples. So what do you comment on this?
All right. So first of all, as I said, he's one of those classic people who have this hangover that we can somehow mix Islam with modern progressive societies. He believes in that. I think founder of Pakistan believed in that too. That's been proven wrong time and time again. There's only one example of Turkey that we can see that when you actually completely throw away religion, that's when you might go somewhere. That's the only one example that we have. All the other Muslim countries are having these troubles. And you look at Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, all these countries are having these problems because they're trying to step into 21st century, but they still want to hold on to Islam in politics, not Islam as in like, you can't ban it. Obviously, there's so many other countries, you don't have to ban it, but in having its active role in politics. That's point number one. So he's confused on that. He wanted to quote countries of Sweden and Norway, but then he called this Medina ki Riyasat, the state of Medina. And a lot of people said that, if he had used Norway as an example, then people would have gone after him, which is now the second part that you made. And someone who said earlier, I think Talali was, and he said, this is the generation. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. We grew up after what Zia had done to Pakistan. So now we're in our 30s, and now some people in the 40s as well, who would have been brainwashed by Zia ul-Haq's time. Now, those are the guys in bureaucracy, in police forces, and in the army, and in popular places. So now it's not the responsibility of Imran Khan to change the mentality of people. I mean, Imran Khan would I don't think he would even complete his term. If he does, there'll be a miracle. But even if he does, in 5 years, you can't change the minds of people. These things change over generations. So what we're doing, this is the job of the intelligentsia. This is the job of the intellectuals of Pakistan. What we're seeing now, what we're doing now, what Gondal and I are doing on a very small capacity, and there's some other people like Ghalib and ex-Muslim Spark, when we're doing that in Urdu, we're inspiring other people to come out. There's a Miss Atheist girl, everyone shout out to her, subscribe to the channel if you understand Urdu or Hindi. Now we're inspiring these people. Now these people, we're going to inspire them, and now when they grow up, when they go in the military, when they go into politics, police force, bureaucracy, etc., 20 years later, we'll see the results. So that would be the time. Unfortunately, Imran Khan, as you said, he wants to bring in progressive secular bills. It's not going to work. Same thing happening in Saudi Arabia as well. This guy, Mohammed bin Salman, he tries to bring something like, okay, I'm going to allow women to drive. The Wahhabis, they go after him. And and he's a strong man. He's a dictator. He's a king. Even then, dictators can be overthrown. So, but Imran Khan is just, he has a weak government. It's a so-called democracy. It's not easy to bring these changes. And step by step, I wrote an article nearly 3 years ago that Imran Khan will not make Pakistan a secular country. It's so far ahead in the future. But if he's slightly successful, he will lay the foundations for a modern Pakistan. But that was 3 years ago. Those were my hopes from him. But I don't know. I think he might not even be able to do that. But if he can just pass these little laws, temple in Islamabad, a minorities protection bill, if he can pass these little things, then my prediction about him, that he will lay the foundation for a modern progressive Pakistan, then that will be fulfilled. Don't expect, these Pakistanis to go away. They're not going to go away. This is a matter of a generation. 20, 25 years later, we might see the rewards when Abdullah has all his beautiful hair turned gray, and, I will still have black hair.
Okay. I have another question.
So,
do you know about David Wood?
I'm okay. Fine. I was going to say, we have so many people waiting. Okay, we'll make it quick.
Yeah, we know about him.
Okay. Do you know about David Wood?
Yeah, we know about him.
So I want to ask you, why don't you debate with him? Because he is one of the pioneers who took me to the path of atheism. But when it comes to him personally, he's just in another side of the coin. He's a Christian. He bashes Islam using science and logic. But when it comes to Christianity, everything goes out of the window.
Well, that's a very common contention we hear, that if these people like David Wood can criticize Islam,
Christian Prince.
How can they fail? How can Christian Prince, special shout out? How can they fail to see the same fundamental flaws in their own books, right? And one of the reasons we don't really talk about it, because we're sharing a mutual goal, and there's no reason to start enmity between us. Like I said, if I was criticizing, let's say, Christianity, then obviously one of the people that might have come up would have been David Wood if he's defending Christianity. He's not really a channel that defends Christianity or gives arguments for Christianity. It's more about criticism of Islam, right? So if it's just criticism of Islam, we can team up, or at least just keep what is mutually binding between us, follow that, and put our differences aside to get to the mutual goal.
Yeah.
Like I said, it depends on what the content is and what your goal is. Like I said, it varies from person. But I do find your contention valid that yes, those criticisms that he has for Islam can, and almost most of the time, do apply to Christianity as well.
Yeah, and
I want to have a very quick comment for Abdullah Sameer, because I think he can probably explain it even better, because I think Abdullah Sameer did speak with Christian Prince. I was very excited to see that. I tried to find it. I don't know if Abdullah, you can probably help me find it.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to make a video. No, he started. I watched the first 5 minutes, and Christian Prince started by explaining the early bombardment period, where there's this theory that water came on planet Earth from asteroids and meteors. And he said, well, this is written in Bible. This is the same thing that Muslims do about the Quran. So I heard just 5 minutes, and I literally did this, and I didn't watch the rest of it. So, as brilliant as these people can be, you're right. They make the same they can't see the same problem. I have so much to do on this Islamic front. What I say is that my position is official, that there's no Yahweh, there's no supernatural Krishna, there's no Allah, or any other Zeus or Thor or anything. That's my official position. Now, I don't have time or resources or even knowledge, to be fair, to go and speak with someone who believes in Apollo or Zeus now, or believe in Yahweh. Yes, in a passing remark, I would make fun of Jesus, who, a zombie who woke up after 3 days, or walked on water, just, or virgin birth, how, like in the Quran, the early guy made a very interesting comment that God blew into her vagina. I had never heard of this translation before, but Christian story is not that different either. So, I would occasionally make fun of that, but these guys are not really a threat to us. They're not threat. I mean, Christian Prince or David Wood, they're not asking us to be killed. So I think Apostate Prophet has spoken with David Wood as well. I think it's just, our time and resources are better spent. And now I'm spending more time on my Urdu content, where I'm just speaking with other Muslims.
Just to add one thing to it is, I don't focus and dedicate my time to criticizing Christianity, but whenever a point pops up, I don't shy away from it. If you were to watch my presentation on neuroscience of Muhammad, I showed so many Christian saints as case studies for possible epileptics. In fact, even today, I made a tweet about the Bible saying that the sun was stopped moving for Joshua for a whole day, and somehow that story ended up in the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim too. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, I don't focus on it, but if it comes up, I definitely don't shy away from it.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say the same thing, that we don't, like, the things we're covering automatically apply to Christianity as well. Like that presentation about the neuroscience of prophethood completely goes against the idea of any sort of prophet at all, right? Before we, thank you for your call, Devin. Before we take any more calls, I just want to highlight this comment and share my screen. I don't know about this fellow, but I just found out about him as well just now. Tunisian activist Nasser Amali must be granted protection. So the Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain strongly condemns the decision of the Danish government to deny Tunisian activist his claim to asylum. And, hopefully he will actually get asylum. And thank you for the super chat. There was another super chat as well. I'm trying to keep up with all the comments. There's so many. Harris, you wanted me to highlight something? I don't see it.
Yeah, I think there's a super chat from Dharmic Atheist. I can read that. It says, can we get anything in Jannah, what we imagine in our life? There it is. Or what if I imagine there should be no God anywhere? If Quranic God is reality, would it fulfill our imagination? I'm not sure if I understood this question. Can anyone? What we imagine?
He's trying to say that if somebody wishes to not see Allah in heaven, will that wish be fulfilled?
Yeah. Well, that's.
You think?
This is that's a very good one. Well done, Dharmic. I think Christopher Hitchens answered it in a way. He said something like, "Now imagine this is one hell of a party that you just cannot leave. Imagine I don't want to go to this party. I'm done. I've already had a party. I don't want to have a party." So when people say, this is the easy apologetics that we get from Muslims, like, oh, what age am I going to be in? old, young, child, whatever. And then, whatever you demand. Some people, some Muslim apologists like Engineer Muhammad Ali Mirza, they answer this problem of, well, men would get so many women. What about women? What would women get? So he said, well, nothing particularly was said about it, but overall, you can get anything you want. So if a woman wants so many husbands, she'll get it, because the main condition is she can get anything she wants. So imagine she says, I don't want to live anymore. What if there could be depressed people there as well? There could be a depression there as well. I'm just stuck in this. I want to end my life. Then what's going to happen then? So I think because these are terribly bad, flawed philosophies made by ancient men. That's why they didn't even think it through when they came up with these. Fairy tales. And
I think Jannah, in some ways, you end up being an automaton, because you don't have feelings. You're never upset. You don't care about people in hell anymore, even though you can see them. So you wouldn't be the same person anymore. Thanks for your question and your super chat. There's people waiting, and I also want to do a couple of slides. Let's just do a couple of slides, because we're not going to get to the presentation.
Yeah.
Let's do a couple of slides.
Okay. We'll go to the modern blasphemy cases. So this is Salman, Taseer, and Asia Bibi. So the problem with this case is it blew up, and this spanned over more than a decade. The end of this case is still doing. So Salman Taseer was the governor of Punjab and a very rich businessman in Pakistan. And what happened with Asia Bibi was she was working in a field, and she apparently drank from a well. Correct me, Harris, if I don't recall the story.
Drank from a well or something, right?
So she drank water from a well, and the Muslims were like, no, you drank water from a well, that's not okay. And then somebody allegedly said that she blasphemed against Muhammad, and then she was arrested and put in jail, and obviously sentenced to death. Now, what ended up happening was Salman Taseer was one of the only people, and correct me, this was back in 2007 or 2008, somewhere around that time. I remember watching TV, and he was sitting with Asia Bibi, like in that picture, and I think he said that the blasphemy law that exists in Pakistan is a Kala Kanun. I think it means it's a black law, or it's not an honorable law. And that got him into so much trouble that there was a Mufti Hanif Qureshi, who then gave a sermon against Salman Taseer and blasphemers, and he lost his mind in that sermon. And what ended up happening was the bodyguard of Salman Taseer saw that sermon. It instigated him, and one final day, that bodyguard emptied a whole AK magazine in Salman Taseer. That guy was known as a Haji Mumtaz Qadri. He ended up becoming a national hero. And that's him right there. The picture on the right is immediately after he shot the guy, and he was in the cop car in the back. Right, he was the bodyguard. He was a special forces agent. And if you see on the left, when he was eventually, after years, it was back and forth protests, he was sentenced to death for taking justice in his hand. But he became a hero, and there was hundreds of thousands of people who attended his funeral. But there were people who were hesitant. The imams were hesitant to even have a funeral for Salman Taseer, fearing that if their name gets attached to a blasphemer, they might get killed by people like him.
Jeez.
This was me trying to summarize the story. Then ended up what happening, Asia Bibi went to jail. She stayed in jail for 7 or 8 years. And then again, recently, there was an appeal and she was let go. There was huge drama in Pakistan with these people called Khadim Rizvi, and they tried, did a sit-in in the capital to lock the whole country down. Eventually, Asia Bibi was acquitted of the charges, and she was transported to a safe location outside of Pakistan. But yeah, that was the culmination. It's a big case.
Let's quickly jump to calls, and then we'll. Do you want to show the clip after of that?
Actually, we can show that right now. Just 20-30 seconds of that clip, just to show you that what Mufti Hanif Qureshi did, how he instigated violence, and how the passion he comes up with. He will be swinging his arms, jumping, yelling, saying, "Kill the blasphemer." That's what his goal is, to tell people to kill the blasphemer. I'm just going to show 10 seconds to get the point. Well, that's good enough. So basically, what he's yelling like a crazy maniac is the only punishment for the blasphemer is to get like as Harris said, chop his head off, his head detached from the body. That is the only acceptable punishment. And as you can see, he said this. This is the khutbah he gave, or this talk he gave, sorry, which incentivized that guy to go shoot the chief minister of Punjab.
Okay, next, let's take some questions. Sorry for people that have been waiting. Hello, New Nomad. How's it going?
Hello.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I hear you perfectly.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I'm Team Canada in Ottawa, so I want to say Happy Canada Day to all you guys.
You too, man.
Thanks.
1st of July also happens to be Somali Independence Day.
Oh,
so
happy
yeah.
Independence Day there too, man.
Thank you, and it also happens to be my birthday, so I'm a true
happy birthday!
So
I
wanted to
two
say,
birds with one stone, but this is like 3, man.
3 birds with one stone, exactly. So first of all, I want to thank you guys for
Just to make-
the efforts that you're doing.
Was that a haram?
Sorry, say that again.
That looked like something haram you're drinking there.
Oh yeah, I'm chilling in my backyard, and I'm a bit, it's beautiful, man. We only have 2 days of summer in Canada, so I'm gonna enjoy it. But yes, it is beer, which was actually invented in Egypt, believe it or not. But anyways, I just wanted to say thank you for all the efforts that you guys are doing. It's amazing. I just wanted to kind of throw in a bit of a Somali context. I'm, I guess, 1/4 because my grandfather on my mother's side is Pakistani. So yeah, it's just some because I don't know if you guys know, but there's a lot of Pakistanis on the coast of Africa, the Horn of Africa, right?
Yeah.
So product of that. So my grandfather on my mom's side is Pakistani, but that's why my name is actually Khan. And just wanted to let you guys know I love this conversation that you guys are having. And I just wanted to kind of put in a couple of cents and just see what you guys think. Blasphemy, apostasy, and threats, right? So apostasy and blasphemy, one of the things that I fear is an issue more so than anything else, especially in a place like Somalia, let's say, that does not have a functioning government that can actually enforce laws. And this was actually an enlightenment that came from a conversation that I had with Mohammed Saeed, who's the president of the XMNA, on our channel. Which is a Somali channel that it's called Walk Nation, actually. I don't know if you guys know about it, but it's as a matter of fact, my co-panelist, my colleague on that is Noon Benson, which is
I was just gonna say, as soon as you mentioned Walk Nation, as soon as you mentioned Walk Nation, that's when I realized, oh right, so that's Noon's.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's exactly. So myself, Noon, and Nabad are actually trying to do the same thing, but for Somalis, right? So one of the things is that because there's no seminary in Islam, right? Because there's no priests and popes and any kind of hierarchy, a lot of these blasphemy and apostasy laws are enforced by vigilante justice, and not so much state sanctioned punishments, right? Like Pakistan, for example, it would be state sanctioned. Whereas, even though in Somalia, apostasy is, to be, we know what the punishment is, but it's really enforced by vigilantism, right? So I just wanted to know what kind of layer of complexity do you guys think that adds to the fact that you're getting threats? You guys are a lot more visible in the public eye, and you're upfront about your views, which I really appreciate, but maybe you guys actually see how vigilantism works for blasphemy and apostasy laws.
I don't think the diagnosis.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna say one this last line. When I speak to like the liberal Muslims, they'll say, "Well, there's a need for witnesses," and they're gonna go back to the hadiths and to the actual Sharia, right? They're gonna go back to that and say, well, only a place where Islam is governing the law that's where that kind of stuff is going to be enacted. But they never talk about the vigilantism that happens in terms of upholding these blasphemies and apostasy laws.
See, I think I don't think the diagnosis is entirely correct. It is true, obviously, there's no central hierarchy like a pope, which could actually unite people. But even in Christianity, there are various sects of Christianity as well who don't listen to the Pope either, even though it's still the largest denomination. But in Islam, a lot of Shiites actually do look towards Iran. They do have some sort of a central kind of command there. Like even I know Pakistani Shiites definitely look at what's Khamenei are saying. But in Sunni Islam, it gets messier. And you're right. In case of Pakistan alone, there's you've got Hanafis, Malikis, and then you've got Deobandis and Barelvis and Ali Hadiths and all these little ones. They all have their own pressure groups. But on issues like blasphemy and all that, because they all want to go on one up on each other, they all try to say, yeah, kill them. So what they end up doing, they still end up creating a pressure group. They're little pressure groups. So instead of having one pressure coming from the Vatican, now they have these little 10 different groups who are creating pressure on the government to actually have these kind of laws. So despite of all this, we have 13 countries where you have blasphemy punishable by death or apostasy. Yes, that would have helped, but governments know that if they don't make these laws, then vigilantism would actually get even worse. And you're right. I mean, this was a vigilante murder of the governor that Sameer Gondal just mentioned. Asia Bibi was also, if the government hadn't, most of the cases when government actually arrests these blasphemers, it's actually to protect them from the crowd. But then to keep the crowd happy, it's like this ancient gladiatorial combat where the crowd is chanting blood, blood, blood. So the government is like, yeah, right. Because government is seeing the pressure from the European Union and all the external Western countries, but they can't do anything. So at the end, in the middle of the night, they just export people like Asia Bibi. They say, with there are a couple other cases as well. We're hoping a similar thing, but no word yet. But they got to keep the crowd happy. They're demanding blood.
I was going to say, it's an interesting comment you made, and because there's many things that Muslims do that are not technically allowed in Islam, such as honor killings, such as FGM. FGM, maybe we can debate it is allowed because there's hadith about it. But let's say honor killing.
I'm from in Somali culture, I think it's most prevalent. So,
yeah, and when you say vigilantism, it's a very interesting dynamic there, because it's sort of enabled by the state, right? When you have in Egypt, for example, like I've heard of other cases as well, where something happens, and actually we have some examples in the slides of that. If you can, let me just jump to the slide and we can actually just talk about that. So we'll just get right into that. And other than that, do we have anything else? Did we cover your question? I think it is a complicated issue, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it was really an open-ended questions, and I just wanted to kind of put it out there that Abdullah Sameer, Abdullah Gondal, and Harris Sultan would love to have you guys on our little YouTube channel as well, just to have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
thank you for all the work you're doing.
You too, man.
Thank you as well. Do send me an email, and we can coordinate and go from there. Thanks.
Will do. All right.
Okay.
Peace, guys.
All right, so I'm gonna just show my screen. Okay, we talked about we didn't really talk about Mashal Khan, but I think we all know the story. So we'll just go to the next one. Should I go through this one or should I go to the Egyptian ones? Should we go through this? Did we talk about it, Pakistan, enough?
Yeah, we can talk about this one because this one's very
okay, let me show this.
Very horrific, like the way it happened with this teenager, and then the way he says, and he's proud of himself.
Let me show.
कब बोले हैं वो? क्या करता था? कैसे मारा? कैसे मारा है आपने? छुरी के साथ। कहाँ? क्लास में? नाम क्या है आपका? खतीब हुसैन। कौन सी क्लास में पढ़ते हो? 5वीं सेमेस्टर में। क्या नाम है तुम्हारा? उनकी डेथ हो गई, पता है आपको? अच्छी बात। क्या बोलता था वो? रोज बोलता। क्या बोलता था? रोज ज्यादा तो ही नहीं करता।
So this is one example where actually the government, like the Pakistani government in this case, they did actually, I guess, kill him for doing this. But there's cases where, like for example, well, there's some other cases I have in the slides where What happens is when they complain to the police actually put them in jail. Oh, here's the example I was talking about. Okay, here we go. So this is actually why I think it gets complicated. So for example, with this guy, Egyptian humanist Ahmed Harkan, he was one of the few non-believers in Egypt who dared to speak openly about being an atheist, and he was invited to speak on several Egyptian talk shows. According to media reports, Harkan and his pregnant wife, Nada, survived an assassination attempt on the evening of 25th October 2014. He managed to flee with his wife after receiving some injuries and went to the police station to report the incident along with his friend. The attackers chased them and told the police he had insulted Islam and compared the Prophet to the Islamic State on television. The police officers then supposedly further assaulted them, and they were imprisoned and charged with blasphemy and defamation of religion. So, and then he was banned from traveling outside of Egypt. And then when he tried to travel to marry his fiancée, they refused to let him marry his fiancée. And then after that, he went on hunger strike, ending after 57 days. And then eventually he came back to Islam after all of the suffering he went through and not being able to marry his wife. I think he finally decided he might as well just be Muslim because he couldn't leave the country.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to judge him. Maybe he's a true, sincere Muslim, but I mean, after 10 years, I mean, I think all of us know exactly what happened.
Yeah, with the context.
But this is kind of deals with what you know, Fen was asking us, that the situation here is so complicated because sometimes, even though vigilantism is not allowed in Islam, it's kind of like the authorities will look the other way, you know, they'll wink and they don't care. They don't care. If you get, and like that other guy who wanted to escape from Kenya, he told me that he goes to the police and the police are like, they don't really care because he's insulting the religion, you know?
This is what happens when you create something so holy. This is what happens when you create sacred cows. The same thing, like, you know, vigilantism would not be allowed if someone, for example, if someone in Australia says, you know, I hate Australia, let's burn Australia down. No Australian law or no country's law would allow that to take matters into your own hand and beat that person up. But if someone does do it, there will be so many people that'll be like, yeah, well done, yeah, good work. So, and religion, and obviously this is a bad example because Australia, you know, the Western countries are still more civilized. But in a country like Pakistan, they go, oh, he said it. Even though the state doesn't allow it, they won't be able to condemn it openly. They try to do it, even though with someone like Mumtaz Qadri, the one who murdered the governor, they would still be very respectable to him. Oh, you know, maybe he shouldn't have done that. Oh, you know, they're still very polite towards him. And they don't have the balls to say, how dare you do it? We're going to hang you in the middle of a street or something. Not that I support that, but I'm just saying that this is what happens when you create sacred cows, that it is seen as a virtuous thing and states crumble under pressure and they end up accepting it.
Well, one of the things I wanted to add is I feel that vigilante killings of apostates or blasphemers directly correlate with the trust people have in the government implementing the law. Because like I said, like in even in the Pakistani constitution, 295C, which is the Blasphemy Act, where you're supposedly given the death penalty, you're still even if you're given the death penalty in Pakistan, like you're still liable. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. But yeah, exactly.
I didn't realize my screen was on. I was trying to find the slides.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to pull it up.
Sorry.
So what I want you to see is on the highlighted part, 295C, whoever by words, either spoken or written, or by visible representation, or by imputation, insinuation, directly or indirectly, defines the sacred name of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, shall be punished with death or imprisonment for life, and shall also be liable to fine.
And fine too? Kill you and then we'll fine you.
So it even says innuendo, you know? So like, I mean, that, so fair enough, not okay, still not fair enough, but I can understand it's a step-by-step process. So if it just said something like, whoever defiles the character of Prophet Muhammad, you know, he will be facing imprisonment or fine. Okay. Maybe that would be the first step. We can push him to these guys, but they've even put in something like innuendo, insinuation, like even a little bit, even if we get a hint of it. So that's why, I mean, this is why it's so important that I talk about his sex life, his sex life with his sex slaves that he had, All these things are important because I'm breaching this law quite openly in case of innuendo insinuation. Obviously, it's a third world country law. It doesn't apply on me.
Okay. I do have some other interesting examples I want to go to.
Yeah, definitely.
Before we get to these. So there's the Egyptian scholar Abu Zaid. Abu Zaid, he was not even an apostate, but like you said, there's this checklist of things that the scholars are judging you on. He was a Muslim according to him. He reminds me of a Hassan Radwan type of character. You know, Hassan Radwan, actually lost his faith, but this guy, he still thought he was Muslim according to him, right? And he started looking at the Quran as a literary text, and he wanted to use a literary approach to analyze it. And because of this, they declared him an apostate, and he started getting death threats, and he had to flee. Then he went to Madrid, then he went to Netherlands, where he was a visiting professor. So this guy's a professor. He's an academic. This is a problem. Muslim academics, they can only go so far, and the mob will go after them. This is a problem, you know? And so he said, I couldn't take more than 2 months of around-the-clock security. Whenever someone came to visit, they had to be cleared. Whenever I wanted to go out, I had to coordinate with security. I couldn't just go to a coffee shop with my friends and play a round of backgammon. This is kind of like what Abdullah Sameer is going through right now in Germany. He has around-the-clock security. He's living
in Europe. This is not in a Muslim country that you need 24 hours. This is in Europe. Like, just imagine that the threat is that real. And one thing I want to point out is this is not an exhaustive list. So if we did miss out certain people, it's not offensive. Certain people we cannot mention because their cases are ongoing, and we've been given directives by lawyers to not talk about them for their own safety.
Yeah, I'm laughing because sorry, I didn't mean to laugh in that sense. I'm laughing because there's so many. Like yesterday, we were discussing me and you, and we were like, there's like so many examples. Islam has done this to so many people that like we could go on for like 6 hours just talking about person after person, and we just don't have time. So I'm just going to quickly, so apparently the Islamic, ruling in Egypt was he's not Muslim, so his wife is automatically divorced. And he was saying, I'm Muslim, guys. I'm Muslim. I'm just taking a different approach to analyzing the Quran. And anyways, so that's the story of Abu Zaid. Is a beautiful soul, if you ask me. There's also the example of the Egyptian Quranist Sheikh Mizan. This guy's funny. What he did was he claimed he was a Mahdi. And the reason he did this is because he wanted to show them that according to Hadith, they cannot prove he's not the Mahdi. So he's trying to show them how ridiculous the Hadith are by saying he's the Mahdi. They decided to say that he is in contempt of religion. They put him in jail. They were going to put him in jail for 5 years because he was, basically spreading discord and harming national unity and denigrating whatever. Eventually, he got out after 1 year. So he served 1 year in prison for being a Quranist, for being, still a Muslim of some sort, still believes in Prophet Muhammad, still believes in the Quran, but he was skeptical about the Hadith. And he had to go to jail for 1 year. And it could have been longer, but, you can see Egypt is at least a little bit better than Pakistan. This guy in Pakistan, I don't know what would have happened to him.
He would have been dead. His lawyers would have been dead.
It's like his lawyers. Another example of I think he's also Quranist, Islam Bahari, and he was on TV, and basically he's also held in contempt of religion. I can think of Sheikh Gaber. This guy said that he was questioning the credibility of some of the sources of Prophet Muhammad's sayings. And then he was, sentenced to 1 year in jail. His channel was shut down. And the scholars of, Al-Azhar went against him. So again, this is like freedom of, like, this is what happens when you have theocracy. And it's such a tight knit, like there's not even, you can't even question. You can't even imagine this. This is the state of academics in the Muslim world. Academia, I should say. Like, you can't say anything without going to jail.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
even Gandhi in Pakistan. He's a big scholar. Dr. Shahzad Salim. All of these reformist scholars cannot go back to Pakistan ever. You take Mufti Abu Layth, for example. Can he ever go back to Pakistan now? And he's probably going to get killed by some hardcore Wahhabi guy who knows him from his madrasa days in Karachi.
It's crazy. So next guy is Avijit Roy. Avijit was a Bangladeshi American engineer, online activist, writer, and blogger. He used to run an online internet community called Mukto Mona, which was for free thinkers and whatnot. And he was an advocate for free expression. He said, our aim is to build a society which will not be bound by the dictates of arbitrary authority, comfortable superstition, stifling tradition, or suffocating orthodoxy, but will be based on reason, compassion, humanity, equality, and science. He was hacked to death by machete-wielding assailants in Bangladesh, in Dhaka. And his wife was also attacked, and she actually survived, but he died. This is, yeah, and then there's a big list of Bangladeshi bloggers. I didn't have time to go into all the details. There's Asif Mohideen. You know, he survived. He's now in the West. He has videos talking about how he survived. There's Ahmed Rajib Haider, who was hacked to death. There's Saniur Rahman, who was also attacked by machetes but survived. There's Shafiul Islam. There's Oyasikur Rahman, who was also killed. He was not even a high-profile blogger. There was Ananta Biois Das, who was also hacked to death. He had authored 3 books on science, evolution, and revolution in the Soviet Union. So a lot of these guys, I guess, were communists, and that was what inspired them. There was Niloy Chatterjee. Again, he was hacked to death. There was Faisal Arifin Dipan, who was not even, he was just a publisher. He wasn't even writing the articles. This was like kind of like Charlie Hebdo kind of situation, where he's just a publisher. And he published a book, The Virus of Faith, which was Avijit Roy, the first guy we showed. And he was hacked to death as well.
We also have one more example of Kamlesh Tiwari, who was who was a Hindu Islamic critic, and people went into his office and they just slit his throat. Yeah, so it's the attitude again. Obviously, that's, you know, India doesn't have these laws, but it's the attitude about anyone who says anything about a religion. We gotta shut them up violently.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to actually before we go forward was to go back to the slides about blasphemy from Qadi Ayad, and those we will go through quickly.
Yeah, I'll share my screen right now. 1 second.
Perfect.
Okay.
Just to show you that what scholars have been saying. This was a book written by a big scholar, as a Maliki scholar, Qadi Ayad, and he quotes a bunch of Muslim scholars, and he doesn't just quote his school of thought. He quotes the Hanbali, the Shafi, the Hanafis, and he claims ijma as well, and then he gives relevant examples as well from not only the Prophet's life, but from the Sahaba too, and what this Muhammad's grandsons and what they said about it. So let's just start. He, again, like I said, he starts by comparing, as you see on the top left, whoever changes his religion is to be amputated of his neck. This is, again, like I said earlier, apostasy is automatic blasphemy, right? So here on the second part we see is that Malik says that otherwise the consensus is to kill the one reviling the Prophet, as we have previously mentioned. By virtue of deliberation and consideration, it is incumbent to kill the one who disparages or reviles the Prophet, for who perpetrates, etc. And then he goes at Levantine scholars on the authority of Malik and Saudi, Abu Hanifa, and the Kufa scholars. So there's a bunch of big names he just gave there. He gives in an incident about Umar wanted to cut off somebody's neck. Umar was really violent, by the way. Oh, you said something to Muhammad? Off with his neck. You know, like he's his hitman or something. Yet in case...
He wasn't very smart either. He wasn't a very smart man either.
Yeah. So he says, yet in the case of reviling Allah's messenger, he is to be killed with impunity. Then he gives that the Harun al-Rashid, the caliph, asked Malik bin Abbas about the religious verdict who had reviled the Prophet and told him that he should be flogged. But Malik got angry and said, O commander of the believers, how can the nation last after its Prophet is being reviled? Whoever reviles the Prophet is to be killed, and whoever reviles the Prophet's companions is to be flogged according to the prescribed penalty of cursing others falsely. In chapter 2, he then goes to the proofs of what leads you to get to this legal ruling. He goes on and he says that there's no discord as to killing the one who abuses Allah, and that Allah curse gets due on the disbelieving one, and thereby the legal judgment concerning him is to be killed. Now, when we go to the next slide, what we will see here on top left, he goes on about some Quranic verses and stuff. But what's important is what he narrates from Hussein bin Ali. Hussein bin Ali narrated through his father that Allah's messenger said, "Whoever reviles the prophet, kill him, and whoever reviles my companion, flog him with the prescribed penalty." In the sound hadith, the prophet, where was that guy that said that he didn't command, right? Commanded to kill Ka'b bin al-Ashraf, saying, "Who can assume the mission for killing him? For he offends Allah and his messenger." So he dispatched someone who assassinated him stealthily. It was, if you actually go and read the stories, no joke, it sounds like Assassin's Creed Desert Edition. I'm not joking. They climb the castle walls, and then they look around, and then they trick the guy. He's like, "I like your perfume," and he bends his head over, and then they just grab him, and it's bizarre. But like, he says, like, without warning him, unlike the polytheists, they killed him. Likewise, Abu Rafi was slaughtered for the same reason. Al-Bara said he used to offend Allah's messenger and help his enemies against him, as well as the Prophet commanded to kill Ibn Khatal and his slave girls who used to slander him. In another version, he says, whoever used to curse the Prophet, slaughter him. So then Khalid said, "It is me." Then he sent him and he killed that man. So there's, I mean, at this point, I'm not going to go through all of them. You get the point that it's not an anomaly. It's not something that, oh, ex-Muslims are claiming that there's blasphemy killings. There's absolutely no killings. They're lying. No. Muhammad did the killings. Muhammad ordered the killings. His Sahaba did that. We have countless narrations from him directly saying that. We have jurists, great fuqaha, and great scholars of Islam claiming ijma on this issue. I think it's very clear that this issue has a deep root in Islam. And it can't be said that this has no basis. And I think this needs to be addressed. And one problem I find is that Muslims never call out these scholars. If you were reading these books, these are big names. Like, if you actually want to push a reform version of Islam, you have to call this out, because this is in your books. It's your big scholars. Anyways, that's what I had to say.
Yeah, I just want to. They only have a couple more slides. We'll take the last 4 questions, and then we'll sign off for the night. There's only a couple more slides, which I just want you to kind of go through before we finish, and we'll take the questions. So apologize to whoever's waiting. But yeah, we'll just need to last few slides, and we're done. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So what we see here, I'm just going to read it quickly, is this is the amendments that were made in the 80s, way later on, after Bizalak as well. Some of them were made by Zia. So this is the extension. So first we saw 295C, but now we're going to see section 298. So here it says, use of derogatory remarks in respect to any holy personages. And this whole section was added specifically for the Ahmadis, okay? You read in 298b, misuse of epithet, description, and titles reserved for certain holy personages. It literally is bigotry at this point. The Constitution of Pakistan is singling out a minority group and saying that they're not allowed to follow their religion or call themselves titles because they're similar to titles that Muslims believe in. So you cannot.
Crazy. You can't call your.
Yeah, you can't say
a masjid.
anybody Amir al-Mu'minin, Khalifa, Khalifatul Muslim, Sahabi, or Radiyallahu anhu. You can't even say those nice greetings because they were used for Sahabis. Anybody other than the wife of the Prophet cannot be addressed as the mother of the believers. Anybody other than the actual members of the Muhammad family cannot be addressed as Ahlul Bayt. No place of worship apart from an actual mosque can be called a mosque. Shall be punished with imprisonment or either description for a term which may be extended to 3 years, and shall also be liable to fine. So just being an Ahmadi and just saying that, oh, I believe that my mosque or the place of prayer should be called a mosque, you can end up in jail for 3 years. This is insane. It's insane. And even after this, it says, any person of the Qadiani group or Lahori group who call themselves Ahmadi or by any other name, who by words either spoken or written or by visible representation refers to the mode or form or call of prayers followed by his faith as azan, they cannot even call their call to prayer azan, or recites the azan as used by the Muslims, shall be punished with imprisonment
Gee.
term extended to 3 years.
It's crazy.
It's insane. Like the nonsense is insane. The amount of bigotry. Anyways, let's go to the next one. And this one is about the passport application. Now, what's interesting is I actually applied for my passport, and this is the official form. I kid you not. If you're a Muslim, you cannot get the passport without declaring that you believe in Muhammad's prophethood and that anybody else you don't recognize. And then you have to name Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani to be an impostor and also consider his followers, whether belong to Lahori Qadiani groups, to be non-Muslim.
This is crazy.
It's insane. I guess it's quite ridiculous.
Okay. And this is an example of, in the UK, of an Ahmadi shopkeeper who was killed only because he was Ahmadi. Seriously, this is insane. Like, I don't even know what to say. And that's the last slide that we have. I'm just gonna get to calls.
Harris, would you add anything about the Ahmadis? Because from Pakistan,
yeah. Do you want to guys talk about that quickly, and then we'll take the last 4 calls. I don't want to keep it.
I think we've spoken enough about it.
Okay.
There is no doubt that Ahmadis are treated unfairly, and but they do have a strong network to rescue Ahmadis. But yeah, well, anyway, it doesn't make it right what Pakistan does. It's a very systemic discrimination.
Can you pass that comment back up from Reason on Faith?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he knows about it. He's actually an ex-Muslim. If you want, you should go subscribe to him to learn the Ahmadi aspect of it. He's an ex-Ahmadi, ex-Muslim. Very nice, very well-reasoned, thought-out person. I greatly admire and look up to him. But if you're interested, do look. If you're an Ahmadi and you were interested in Ahmadi apologetics and ex-Muslim responses, he's the guy to go to. So just giving a shout out there, because I know that a lot of our audience, especially in the Western, especially in North America, the more liberal types tend to be Ahmadis, and Ahmadis are also very advanced in their apologetics, and they're very different in a sense from how they understand and interpret the Quran compared to an Orthodox Sunni Muslim.
Absolutely. I mail all that. Okay, so we're gonna take a call. Arhum, hello.
Hello, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Actually, I do see stuff from Harris and, of course, the Gondal, but I'm today interested in having a conversation with you directly. I'm quite amazed by the intellectual capability you have given and the amount of stuff you have in your slides.
He's saying
I'm very good. Yeah.
I was going to some of the stuff because I am against this apostatic, a sort of a stance which has been building in the religion for quite some time, and like the people like Gandhi and the people like Mufti Abulait and a lot of other stuff, reformist scholars, I would say, they actually argue based on some Quranic verses that God Himself does not care for the prophets. So there are some very strong Quranic verses which imply that the prophets are not anything special to God. They can be killed.
Yeah. See, let me. Sorry, I'll let you speak, but I just want to say, those who don't understand, by my understanding, you are a very strong Quranist, and you do throw away a lot of traditions and a lot of sunnah. So, I mean, I know the two Abdullahs are not familiar with Arhum. I've spoken with Arhum quite in detail previously. You know, Arhum, this line of argument is just why it doesn't work is because any argument that you look at how Ghamdi, Sahaba, or even other scholars, the way they create their argument, they pick on certain verses that actually supports our argument. The Quran is full of contradiction. For example, this particular case that you say, you can quote the Quranic verse where God says, to God, there's nothing for them. But prophets are not important. But then there is a Quranic verse as well that says that God, the people need to love God and His prophet. Anyone who doesn't obey them or doesn't respect them, God doesn't like them. So why is God associating Muhammad with Himself? Fair enough. I'm sure. Hang on. I'm sure you would be more than reasonable in giving your justifications from both sides. But that is our argument. From our position, we see that these are the very contradictions that make Islam weak. So you can pick any particular argument and you can run with it, but there will be another conflicting one.
I'm so sorry, I just cut off to you. I'm actually quite. I'm trying to keep the balance and the harmonious nature between these all the various arguments. What I'm trying to state is that what my stance personally is that God Himself is responsible for creating all this evil. He is a malevolent bully. Yeah, the God which the people believe in, He is not that kind of a God. The God which I believe in, He is a bully. He's an omnibenevolent force, and I know that it doesn't even matter if you believe Him or not. One way or the other, He's going to decide what will happen with people in the end. And Harris knows this very well that I have some really strong controversial views, and giving these views in here in live will get me an instant backlash.
Just a heads up, just be careful what you say, because like I said, I don't want you and your personal safety being put at risk. And just to give people an idea that despite this guy is so Muslim and he believes in the Quran and Islam, I'm still telling him to be careful of what he says. And that just shows that there is the extent of the problem. Anyways, carry on.
Yeah, sorry, I muted him. Yeah, you're gonna have to make it quick because we got 3 more calls. We've been going for 2 hours.
Winding up really quickly, I had a conversation with Dr. Raymond Bradley, who is in Canada, and actually emailed him about all these paradoxes. That in the end, God will only want the people who will submit to Him one way or the other. So it doesn't even matter which religion you believe in. It doesn't even matter what you focus on, whether you're an atheist or a Muslim or anything like that. In the end, it doesn't even matter. It's all just unnecessary, and He's doing it for His own divine purpose.
Just a quick question, just to interject, but the Quran does say, in the Deen and Allah al-Islam, that the only religion accepted in the eyes of Allah is Islam, right?
The word Islam has some strong fabricated religious lies on this, and I have to agree with these things.
Okay. Okay, it's quite interesting. I'm just confused. I didn't know the background and context of it, but it's quite interesting. So
yeah.
Another question I wanted to ask, like talking about the Quran and the apostasy law, we see in Surah Baqarah chapter 2, 255, I believe it said, "La ikraha fi din." There's no compulsion in religion. But at the same time, in 930 or 929, we see that Allah commands you to fight all the Ahl al-Kitab till they submit and pay you jizya. As a Quranist, how do you square both vividly different verses without the context of hadith?
Yes, thank you for bringing it up. Actually, first of all, I'm not a Quranist. I'm a philosophical theist, and I take Quran as unnecessary, even if it's the revelation from God. I personally do not believe in any such thing. Secondly, there's a relation, what I call a paradoxical relation, which is present in the Quran, and which has been given in the primary first beginnings of some of the primary verses of the Quran. The chapter number 2, verse number 256, where it says that that there is no compulsion in deen. And then we have chapter number 9, Surah Tawbah, where there are various verses which says that go on to kill unbelievers. And the words have been mixed by scholars. They had no idea, they had no other option but to adopt a religious stance, because to spread Islam, to spread it in a way that it becomes a dominant force, they had to give it a shape of a religion, whereby Quran clearly says that in chapter 10, verse number 99, we have chapter 14, verse number 19, we have chapter 35, verse number 1, where it says that if Allah wanted, He could have made you one single piece, or one single nation, or one single entity, but He never willed it so. So indirectly or directly, Allah Himself is responsible.
Yeah, you see, this is the problem. You say you're not a Quranist, but this is the thing where you pick out the verses that suit your narrative, and now you point. Hang on. We'll let you speak. So you do that, and now what Gondal just placed in front of you, you just quickly brushed it off by saying, this is what scholars did. They did this and that. But this Quranic verse, you just picked it, and you're like, aha, because it supports your worldview. And you're perfectly fine with the translations, with the meaning, with the intent behind it. That's fine. You can do that. Unfortunately, it just doesn't convince any one of us, because when we look at it, I know you might say that you're not trying to convince us, and it's an interesting discourse. It's a good academic conversation to be had. But when we look at this, when we look at it literally, what the words are saying, we see these incoherent. You might have heard of this thing that people say that the Quran is a very incoherent book. It's full of contradictions, and this is why, on one hand, when it suited Muhammad, to say that, oh, like Rafid thing, it's okay, no compulsion in religion. Then when he's getting upper hand, he's like, screw the treaties, screw this and that. We're going in. We're gonna go after them. And then the verses come, kill them wherever you find them, force them to pay jizya. So we know as a human, and this is why this book is very human-made book, and it's a very bad book. I mean, as a person, I wrote my book in 4 or 5 months, and now some of the things that I wrote in that, I'm like, yeah, my views have changed on that. But imagine if I'm actually collecting this book over 30 years or 25 years or something. Of course, what I would have written in 2012 would be different from what I'm thinking in 2023, because now I'm a different man. I have different views now. Some things have changed. Now it suits me to say that, kill the child rapist. So this is why we see that. When we look at from that point of view, we see that. But, because you're a philosophical theist, is that what you called yourself? So because you're that and you have a compulsion to believe that maybe this book is the word of God, you are going to make these excuses for them now. As I said, that you ignored those examples, and then you went with this one. What Gondal presented in front of you, like, yeah, well, not that, but you went with this one. So, we can talk about it some other time, because I know how you go around this, and unfortunately, this is not the place for a debate.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your call. 2 more calls and we're done. Solkasha, hello.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Very
very little. But go ahead.
All right, then. Really, appreciate you guys for your time and effort. I am originally from Pakistan, but in Team Canada right now. So happy Canada Day. So I'll be quick. My questions are on the topic and are directed towards Pakistan and the Muslim state in particular. So the first one is that how a state can be satisfied with forcing someone to proclaim a belief under duress of death. Doesn't that create hypocrites and eternal animosities from that person against the religion of Islam? And then what if other religion have apostasy laws for people that leave their religion? Would the Muslim state then say that that is a grave violation for the freedom of thought?
Okay.
And then I'll just quickly mention my second question is that it's for Pakistan in particular, that a lot of younger generation, listening to you guys, Harris and both Abdullah, and it's a repressive society. When I was there, we are always afraid to speak about these topics, even with your friends, because you never know who can stab you on your back. So what suggestion or advice would you like to give to the people in Pakistan, especially the youth who have second thoughts? So what would you say to them that, keep the thoughts to themselves, or how to identify the right person who they can reach out to?
So I'll just repeat the question. The first question was, okay, I forgot now. What was the first question again?
It was about
the hypocrisy.
Oh yeah, okay. It doesn't forcing people make you hypocrites, and the answer is yes, it does. And that Islam creates the same problem that it complains about. Oh, the hypocrites are in the lowest parts of hell. There wouldn't be any hypocrites if there was no consequence and people could just be open about the disbelief. But unfortunately, if you become a disbeliever, you can be killed, you lose your inheritance, your marriage is annulled, you get death threat. Like it creates hypocrites. The system creates hypocrites. That's all I have to say to that, and I'll let you guys answer the second and the.
So for me, I would say that yes, hypocrisy, it reinforces the hypocritical attitude in the masses, right? And that's not good. For another point I want to raise was blasphemy is actually Gustakhi is actually Sunnah. Didn't Muhammad do that to the Quraysh when he insulted their God and he claimed prophethood, right? But they let him do it for 13 years before they did something about it. They were so tolerant of him for so long, right? But like I said, if you do it, it's not if Muhammad blasphemed, it's okay. But if somebody else blasphemed the other side, no, it's the end of the world, or how can you do this? And then you have the blasphemy law. So like I said, it's hypocrisy at its finest.
Not only just blasphemy. Sorry, there was a super chat question from one of my regular subscribers, and he said, let me read it for you guys. I think it just went somewhere up. He said, Ashish asked, does Allah promise 72 who's because he knows Muslims can't get any action in this world? Now,
I would say actually that's not the case, because the Muslims, especially Muhammad, he had 14. How many kids?
Action.
Yeah, I got 5 kids myself, so
right.
so yeah, I'm pretty sure. Although, yeah, that to be serious, I don't know if it's a joke or serious, but to be serious, the idea of who is and all that, it does actually work, and it convinces young people to become, jihadis.
Yeah.
I mean, there's research papers.
It's a very powerful tool. There was one study, not study. So there was one incident, I remember reading it in the newspaper, where this person who had blown himself up, he had put a protection around his groin area.
Oh my God, no.
He had a vest. He had a suicide vest, and he had made sure that he's got protection on his groin area. So when he does get blown up, his penis stays intact. It was in the newspaper or something. I read it. I was like, wow, what about your head, your fingers, everything else is blown up? But he was more concerned about his penis.
Oh my God. Now, the second part of that question that Soul Crusher asked about advice to Pakistanis, you did kind of, I guess you guys did answer that earlier on, right? Like, you were saying, well, don't come out if it's not safe. So Soul Crusher, we did actually answer that. So I apologize. We're not going to repeat it now because we're running late. Thank you so much for your call, and thank you for the kind comments, and appreciate it. And to everyone that's donated super chats to both of our channels and was supported us and everything, thank you guys so much. We really do appreciate it. Those of you who don't know Harris's channel, do join his channel as well. And if you don't know my channel, please join my channel. Gondal, there was a comment for you to start a channel, so you need to start a channel as well as soon as possible. And two more callers, and then we'll end the show. Thank you guys. Kayam Mughal, hello.
Hello, I like your background.
Oh, thank you.
He loves his green screen.
Zindabad.
He's got a green screen, and your green screen. You need to work on your lighting, because last time when you were on my show, you were getting green screen on your teeth as well, and you're getting it again.
My wife says I have a beautiful smile, so this is so women don't like me. I have any teeth. I'm 54-year-old.
Yeah. So
two comments, and I have one question to ask you three gentlemen.
Just a question for now. Khayyam, we really have to wrap it up now. Just a question, please. No comments for now.
The question, the thing was this, that I believe that the way the things are going on in the United States of America about the racism, the way the white folks who are racist, and now not everybody is racist, okay? They have the same, in my mind, they have the same way and mentality as the Islamic people of Pakistan have towards the non-Islamic people. Now, I know you cut my other things which I was going to say, but I'm going to bring link that like a little joint. I believe in this, that the Pakistani Islamic people, not even Indian Islamic people, but Pakistani Islamic people, they are not the same animal as the Saudi Arabian Islamic people. They think that Saudi Arabian have come to Pakistan and they became Islamic because of that. It is totally false, because Islam is a carbon copy of paganism and Hinduism. And the mixture has become like an Oreo cookie, like a black man and a white woman, and you get an Oreo cookie. This is what happened with them. So they're kind of confused. And the way they are so aggressive on like, I'll cut your head off and this and that and
Yeah, Khayyam, but I think we got your point. But that's fine. We know that conservatives, wherever there's tribalism, wherever people hold their beliefs very sacredly, they do end up becoming dogmatic, and then they do end up lashing out. So whether that could be a hardcore Christian right winger blowing up abortion clinic, or that could be some Pakistani mullah or cleric trying to behead a blasphemer. So we know that there is a dogma in that forces them to do that. The key difference is, what is your state doing about it? Is the American state giving in to the people, to those people who blow up abortion clinics? I don't think so. But is Pakistani state giving up to those clergy or those extremist hardcores who say hang blasphemers or behead the blasphemers? I think it is. Or probably maybe there's a bit of a struggle going on now, but that's the key difference. So I don't know. You drew the comparison, which is fair enough. As I said, that could be everywhere. So yes, there will be slight differences between a conservative Christian who wants to blow up a abortion clinic, but a conservative Muslim who wants to actually behead a blasphemer, and that conservative Muslim could vary from Pakistan to India to Bangladesh and to Saudi Arabia.
Yes, but the thing is this, that there are not a lot of Christians, first of all, who are blowing up abortion clinics, but there are a lot of Pakistani Muslims who are trying to, or did, chop people's bodies up in the name of Rasul. And as we know that Islamic religion is not same, even you say you're Sunni and you're Shia and you're Wahhabi, but as being an Islamic person in Pakistan and growing up in Pakistan and seeing your elders, and I am talking about 70s and after 70s, because the gents who were who made it possible to be Pakistan what Pakistan is were different kind of people than what we have today to deal with.
I would love to kind of discuss this more, but I apologize, we're out of time now. Thank you so much for your comments and
your hair. Yeah, I miss your hair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll try to grow it out again in 2 years.
Both ways. I like your mustache, you know.
There we go. I'll do one for you.
There you go, Gio. मैं एक चीज सिर्फ हैरत सुल्तान सर के लिए कहना चाहता हूँ, जुबान तो खोल, नजर तो मिला, जवाब तो दे. जुबान तो खोल, नजर तो मिला, जवाब तो दे. मैं कितनी बार तेरे पे लुटाऊं, हिसाब तो दे.
Sameer is lost. Sameer is lost. Sameer's got no idea what's going on.
I'm gonna take the next caller. Thank you.
Right.
Hello, Lord Odin. You're the last caller. We have this show went on way longer than I expected, and I apologize to Harris and Gondal and myself as well. But
okay,
we're doing it for you guys. So last caller, Lord Odin. Hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. And I really like you guys and really like your work, especially Abdullah Gondal. May Allah protect you from himself. And
from himself.
Yeah, well done.
Okay, so, I mean, today we have discussed a lot about apostasy and blasphemy law in Pakistan and in different countries. So I was just considering this, that what should be the solution of this whole problem, especially like in Pakistan, the extremism level is going up by every day and every year. And right now, the government has passed another bill that in Punjab, maybe especially the university students, before they graduate, they have to read the Quran or understand the Quran. So what the fuck is this? And what the fuck is this happening in this country? For example, if you go to Vietnam, that's a Buddhist country, and then if you go to study abroad in that country, and they will ask that you should read all the Buddha teaching, and instead of studying medicine or that other stuff, what you are there for. So what the hell is happening over here?
Right. Well, okay. So Gondal, you want to tackle this one?
I'll be really short. But Pakistan, like the solution to this is education, and I feel that's one of the most powerful tools. But again, there's a problem of filtered education, because the curriculum in Pakistan has been infected by the virus of Islam, and to a very, very intense degree. So I feel like the advent of social media connectivity and exposure, coupled with education, will undo the indoctrination of most people. What was the second part of your question? Can you just repeat that?
Well, he was just saying, what's wrong with Pakistan? I mean, doing that their way.
Why is it?
Quran is now being it's mandatory. Everyone has to study Quran.
Yeah, well, actually, that has been mandatory I feel like for a long while. But I remember, it was even to get your bachelor's degree. But my mom and my auntie was studying. I remember I was like in grade 7 or something. But yeah, there's a mandatory Islamic studies course that you cannot graduate without. But yeah, like I said, with religion and religiosity, they try to like stick it in everything. And I think because they can see religionists, people are becoming more and more irreligious. What you see is a pattern that, well, it's a tendency in people. Whereas the more irreligious a group comes, the counter is that hardcore groups emerge and they start pushing hardcore dawah on to bring people back to their roots. So it kind of is like it's a circular thing, right? So that's one thing. Secondly, the thing is like with Saudi money coming in, and Nawaz Sharif being politically very close with Saudi the whole time, with Shah Faisal and the Faisal Mosque. When Saudi oil money boomed, they spread the Salafi dawah everywhere. And guess who was one of the best recipients of it? Pakistan, right? So there's a lot of that, and then it ties in with the politics as well, where the Afghan war and why U.S. actually funded these extremist elements to stay and fight the war, a proxy war for them, right? And so there are lots of these issues. For example, if you were to analyze the groups in Kashmir, like Lashkar-e-Jangvi or Lashkar-e-Taiba, whatever those guys are, right? Or Jaish-e-Mohammed, just take that for example, right? You'll see this, like the more people feel, let's say, oppressed, they lash out in the most oppressive way. Like for example, in the western parts of Afghanistan, you constantly see that, and Imran Khan keeps saying this, the more you bomb these people, the more suicide bombers you're creating, right? There's a whole circle of things, and like I said, I think the short solution to fixing this and the indoctrination problem in Pakistan is mass money being diverted towards education and welfare of people rather than buying JF-17s and F-16s. Yeah,
I think that
I just want to wrap it up by answering this. So how I said earlier that Imran Khan is confused. Now there's a whole generation of these Muslims who are actually confused because they've been cherry picked. They've been told the stories like there was a woman who used to throw rubbish on Prophet Muhammad when we know that there was no such thing. Abu Jahl, who did actually put intestines on Muhammad's back when he was prostrating. He ended up being beheaded, and him and his friends ended up being beheaded after Battle of Badr. So the cherry picking, there's a whole generation of our parents who were uneducated, ignorant about Islam. But now Imran Khan belongs to that generation. Now they've been like very cherry picked good bits of Islam they've been taught. This is why they've been trying to hold Islam and modern progressive values at the same time and try to merge them into one, which is a bad idea, never worked in the history, would never work in future again. So Imran Khan, the same person who's genuinely trying to bring secular values in Pakistan, such as creating temples, bringing Ahmadis in the government, trying to create, other things as well for minorities, trying to pass more bills for the protection of minorities. While he's doing that, he's also trying to pass the laws that every Pakistani kid has to study Quran with translation. I'm pretty sure he probably hasn't read the Quran with translation himself. Now they do that because, again, it's in their mind. They believe, because they've been cherry picked, they've been told good stories about the Quran so aggressively for so long that they genuinely believe the Quran is a message of true God and it's great. It's full of good things, right? So I reckon, as we normally say, when we actually say that you don't need ex-Muslims or atheists, you don't need a God delusion to become an atheist. You need to read your own holy book. This is what we've been trying to do. So in this day and age, people are not going to be sold on the cherry pick stories like this woman used to throw rubbish on Prophet Muhammad and everything hunky-dory. People are not going to buy that because it's only a matter of typing who's Asma bint Marwan or who's Abdullah Gondal. You can just Google it and you'll find all the information. They'll be like, ooh, I wasn't told about this, but this is better for us because in the Quran, when they're going to read, when these kids are going to read, I remember when I went to Pakistani school, I wasn't shown any of the jihadi verses, or even some verses on jihad were shown, but none of these cut off their hands and feet opposite ends, none of that. Find them and kill them wherever you find them. None of those things were told. We were told good bits of it, and that's why we had this romanticized version of Islam. So now that's a good thing that they're going to read the whole Quran in its entirety, and they're going to read these verses, and then they're going to go and look up Abdullah Sameer, Abdullah Gondal, tons of the material online now, and they were like, what the hell is this? We didn't have this luxury. We were too lazy to go to library and read the whole critique on Islam. No, so we just took it. So I think it's a good thing. We should be rejoicing that they're teaching the Quran at the school level. They're even saying that they're going to teach some good hadith. This is why in my Urdu channel I'm actually doing Bukhari chapter by chapter. I'm creating in Urdu. I'm up to 6 books now, and because the TV host Harun Rashid said on TV, he said, we need to just teach them some good hadiths. He said it on TV. I'm like, no, sir. Even in my intro, I had him as a thing. I was like, no, sir. We're gonna teach them holistically, and then you see what happens. So I think it's a good thing. Don't worry about it, Lordo. Then hang in there, buddy. Our time will come.
Absolutely. I don't have
What
anything.
about my years? I can't spend it back in Pakistan.
Yeah, so sorry, we don't have any more time to have a conversation. I apologize,
Thank
but
you very much.
I think he answered it really well, and I do think that. Thank you for your call. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye. Okay, so that's it. That's a wrap, and this has been another episode of the 2 Abdullahs and 1 Harris Sultan. And thank you guys for joining, for calling in. Thank you, Harris, for being a special guest and adding a lot of value and bringing a lot of interesting insight and useful guests as well. A lot of guests from your channel came. Some Quranist, philosophical theist guy, and some other guy speaking Urdu, which I didn't understand anything.
He was just sharing some poetry. That's all.
Beautiful. Do you guys want to add any final comments before we end it off? For my end, I think this was a great show, and I think we covered blasphemy. I think we showed very clearly that blasphemy comes from the hadith and is interpreted by the scholars very clearly to mean a certain thing. And we gave examples of this influencing people being actually killed still today in this world, either minorities like Ahmadis. It's being abused against Christians in Pakistan like Asia Bibi. It's been used to kill people that even defend blasphemers like Salman, Taseer. So I think we've kind of proved the point that Islamic values, at least in the way that Sunni orthodoxy has presented them, are not good for the world. And that's all I have to say.
All right. Well,
thank you very much. I wanted to say. I just want to say, me neither. I'm just going to go and have some biryani. And thank you very much. I'm really starving. Thanks everyone who came in.
Thank you for joining, everybody. From my side, I will say it on Harris's behalf as well. Thanks, Hafiz.
Thanks, Hafiz. Bye, everyone.